Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It's where you're going to find episodes of this show, videos, and merchandise. You can also find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for Holy BatCast. We also do have a YouTube channel, so if you want to go over to YouTube, search for Holy BatCast and subscribe so you can see I'm trying to create more videos for you. Hopefully you like them. And if you are a fan of the show, would like to support the show, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And a huge thank you to all our patrons who keep the show rolling. We couldn't do without you, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Really do appreciate that. We are also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. So if you can't get enough of these podcasts, you can check out the other shows, including Real Fans for Real Movies, where we look at movies past and present. We've also got Taking the Bullet, where Roman and Leroy watch bad movies so you don't have to. And finally, Disorder, every Disney film, where we are looking at every Disney animated feature in order. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com, or you can just search for them by name wherever you found this show, because they are all coming from the same place. As always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. Hello, and if you'd like to follow me on social media when I'm not talking about Batman, you can do that on Twitter or on Instagram just by looking for my name, Andy DiGenova, ANDYDIGENOVA. Now, this episode is very unique because it's not really a new episode, but it kind of is. If you remember, and if you're a fan of the show and have been following the show for a while, last year we did an experiment and we reviewed Batman The Long Halloween. But because The Long Halloween truly is a long Halloween and a long read, we broke it up and we reviewed a chapter throughout the year, each chapter with its corresponding holiday. So we kicked it off Halloween of 2016 and followed it every holiday through Halloween of 2017. So for those who are following along, you got a new chapter every few weeks, sometimes once a month, whatever, but it was stretched out 13 chapters over a full year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that journey, but because we split it up like that, it was kind of interesting and you might have missed bits and pieces. So what I wanted to do for you to make things more convenient is I wanted to compile the Long Halloween, what we called the Long Review, all in one place. So that way, if you're going to read the book, you don't have to go back and search for every episode that had a chapter of the Long Halloween. You can have it all in one place and enjoy it for your convenience. So there's not a lot of new content on this new episode, but hopefully it'll be helpful to you if you are wanting to revisit The Long Halloween and you want to hear our thoughts and commentary along the way. So that's what I did. I went back and dug out every episode where we reviewed a chapter of The Long Halloween, and I'm going to drop it all here in one place for you for your convenience. So if that's not something you're interested in, you don't have to listen to this one. That's okay. You can delete it and move on with your life. No hard feelings. But if you do want the entire conversation in one convenient place, this one's for you. So hopefully you guys find it useful. Just thought it would be something that might be helpful if you guys want it and you don't have to go searching and hunting, because I am here to help you. So what you will hear is all of these reviews from every chapter throughout the past year. You'll obviously hear myself. You'll also hear Jamie Drewley, my co-host, my partner in crime, and occasionally you will hear other voices because depending on the episode, sometimes we had a guest on that episode and they joined in the conversation for The Long Halloween. So you're going to hear some of those guests along the way. So without further ado, here you go, starting with Halloween of 2016 and going through Halloween of 2017, it is Batman The Long Halloween, The Long Review. Enjoy. So guys, how long has it been since you read The Long Halloween?
I think for me it's closer to maybe 4 years. It's been a little while.
What about you, Jamie?
I'd say it's been a good 2. That 2 years ago, I guess it was. That was the first time I actually even read it.
Yeah, I read it for the first time within the last 5 years, and because it was one of those that always came up where, oh, how could you have not read that? And so I finally did, and I loved it, but it's been a while, and again, it was all fuzzy, and I'd been meaning to do it for the podcast, but it just felt like this big task. So Jamie, good thinking on breaking it up and doing it this way, because this way, all of our friends at home can follow along. So pick up a copy of The Long Halloween or download it to your iPad, and all you have to do is read chapter 1 because we're going to talk about it right now. So let's see here. Spoilers, I guess just throw out a spoiler warning. But this issue, guys, feel free to help me when I'm summarizing it or giving it a synopsis because I'm doing it the best I can. But this issue starts off at the wedding of not Maroney, Falcone. Falcone's nephew's wedding. Bruce Wayne is there. It's like this big, the big party. And he's investigating something that's going on with Falcone. At the same time, Falcone's trying to get Bruce to go into business with him, but Bruce isn't. Selena Kyle is at the wedding. There's a little Bruce and Selena, flirty dance thing going on. Then they go home, change into their alter egos, and go break into Falcone's mansion at the same time. At the same time, Harvey Dent is the new up-and-coming district attorney. He's not Two-Face yet. He gets roped in and with Gordon and Batman, and you've got the very famous Batman, Gordon, Harvey Dent on the rooftop scene trying to figure out what to do about organized crime in Gotham. And then because of that, there starts to be some killings. Falcone's nephew gets killed. Who else gets killed? The other guy who was running the bank.
Bank.
Yeah, the guy who was
Richard Daniel.
Richard Daniel was running the bank, and he got scared off, and so he got whacked. And because Batman and Gordon and Harvey Dent are really putting the crunch on the gangsters, it's Halloween night. Harvey Dent comes home to his wife. He's been kind of neglecting his wife because of his new job as DA in Gotham, and the issue ends with a big explosion in the house. There was a mysterious package delivered for Harvey on Halloween night. It explodes, and that's the end of the issue. Other big pertinent points that I missed as I sped through that.
The fact that Richard Daniel pulled the bank out of Falcone's business dealings, they didn't really have anywhere to put their money. So
right.
Yeah. They were stockpiled in a warehouse, and Batman and Harvey destroy it essentially.
Exactly, which is what causes the retaliation against Harvey.
Yep.
Is because they have the money, they burn it, and there's that great moment right before they burn it where you see Harvey is like, oh, that's a lot of money that could be untraceable. And Batman immediately puts the kibosh on that, and he's like, yeah, but doesn't he just say don't even, and then he lights it up. So all right, first chapter of The Long Halloween. Brendan, what do you think?
Like I said, it's been a good 4 years, maybe 5 since I've read this, but every time I pick it up, I always forget how heavily influenced The Dark Knight is by this story.
Oh my God.
I mean, from the first from the first page, you open it up and the first thing you see is I believe in Gotham City, which feels very much like I believe in Harvey Dent, which is even said later in this chapter.
Yeah. Bruce says it.
The way I think, is it Bruce? Is it Batman? Is it Batman's inner monologue that says it?
I don't know. Bruce says it because he says something about I contribute.
Says it more than once.
He says I contribute to his to whatever. I contributed to his campaign. I believe in Harvey Dent.
It's just, and I mean, the money in the warehouse and the fact that it gets burnt, and just the fact that it's the crime. The organized crime is the main thing that they're trying to take down, at the start of the story, it's the Dark Knight. And I forget every time I pick this up. I think I've read this will be the third time, I think, since the Dark Knight's come out. And every time I pick it up, I'm just like, holy shit, I forget how much this influenced that movie. And all in really, really good ways. And I tell you what, I'm in the middle of reading a novel as well as all my weekly comics that I've fallen a week behind on. And I was like, yeah, I'll just read the first chapter for this, and then I'll put it away, and that'll be it. I'll just read the first chapter for this review. I want to read the rest of it now, damn it.
Yeah. It's a really great setup of what's to come. Very exposition heavy, but all very interesting exposition, and you would think that would be at the expense of the Batman stuff, but it's really not. Like, I think it's a great first chapter, and smartly ends on that cliffhanger that makes you want to keep reading. But I was reading it before bed last night at midnight, and so I was like, nope, okay, chapter 1, going to bed, having an early morning tomorrow.
I was that late, I was reading it in bed as well. I'm like, no, I need to go to sleep. But I just had another point I was going to raise, but I've lost it now. Nah, it'll come back to me.
It's all right. Well, while you're thinking about it, Jamie, what about you?
He kind of took the words out of my mouth about the influence that this story had over the Nolan movies, but also it's probably worth mentioning how much influence that the Godfather movies had over this particular story. Just kind of the feel more than anything, and even into the Dark Victory story, which is kind of the continuation of this storyline. There's even more so of it. But, locales being at, it wasn't his daughter's wedding, it was his nephew's wedding or whatever, but just it has that influential tone about it. Mm-hmm. You can just kind of see and feel the presence of some of that Godfather influence in there.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
What I was going to say before was, because it's been so long since I've read it as well, and this isn't helping with me wanting to keep reading, and because it is such a big read, I kind of forget where it's going. I've forgotten more than I remember about it.
No, me too. I'm right there with you. I only had the vaguest recollections of this stuff as I was reading it. So yeah,
it's a great read.
Yeah, so that's very true. I will say I really love the Batman Catwoman stuff in this. I think that is great, the way the relationship is portrayed in here, which is why I thought it was so funny that earlier tonight Jamie goes, yeah, I don't think Catwoman's that interesting. And having just read a really great portrayal of Catwoman last night, I was like, what are you talking about? She's the best. So I really liked the Bruce and Selina dynamic, and then of course juxtaposed with the Batman Catwoman dynamic. And I love that, like many of the great Batman Catwoman stories, there's that uneasy alliance where she's helping him, but you don't know how much you can trust her and what she's up to. And I think that all plays really well. But of course, she's the one who leads them to the money.
I tell you what, it's getting ahead of myself here, but go read Dark Victory and then come back and tell me how much you like how well they closed out her arc with this particular story.
Well, I'm not,
because that's the most recent Catwoman stuff I read was Dark Victory, which is what triggered me to say that to begin with. So,
but even Dark Victory is not that recent.
No, but it's more. I'm not talking about stuff from Silver and Golden Age either. So, anyway.
Right. All right.
Point being, Catwoman's never been my favorite, and quite frankly, I think that outside of a little bit of hazy memory stuff from the '60s show, Michelle Pfeiffer is really the strongest Catwoman thing I have going. So, well, I guess Anne Hathaway's was really good too, but a lot of people would actually debate me on that.
Really?
And I don't know why. Anne Hathaway's fantastic. Anybody?
She was so great in it.
I know. She's great in everything because she's a spectacular actress. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Batman Catwoman stuff, it's fine, but for some reason I feel like, and it's probably, again, I just read Dark Victory for the first time. I just finished it last week, and there's a lot of overlay between this story and that one, so I probably feel like it went on. Gosh, I don't even know how to say it. it just doesn't feel like the story with her and Batman ever went anywhere for me. I don't know. I'm probably judging it too harshly because I'm not a huge fan anyway. But,
well, yeah, and again, it sounds like reading Dark Victory has colored your opinion.
It has
on this
because I didn't like at all what they did in Dark Victory with Catwoman. So that's probably, again, it's getting ahead of myself. Well, I'm 26 books up in a 26 book story. So
yeah, well, we're in chapter 1. I really liked the Catwoman and Batman stuff. And I usually don't, I don't know. I when Batman goes up against organized crime, it's fine as part of a larger story. But if that's the main story, generally that's less interesting to me than Batman taking on more colorful villains.
Right.
But here it is part of a much bigger story, and I think that's where it works the best. And so I really like that as far as that's what's going on in Gotham. At the same time, Batman is doing, his best to keep it under control in Gotham while Catwoman is doing what she's doing. And then Harvey's trying to do it, on the right side of the law, along with Jim Gordon. Like, I think that's what is so good about this setup in this first chapter is they're really putting all these pieces in play. And then we get to see how then things get complicated moving forward as more characters join and circumstances change for Harvey and things like that. So I think this uses Falcone and Maroni in just the right way, how you should use it in a Batman story. And so just starting, again, from issue 1, chapter 1, starting again, it grabbed my interest right away, and I really enjoyed it. And the artwork, we should talk about the artwork as well. I think it's interesting it's not my favorite because it's extremely stylized, but I really like it in this context.
Yeah, I would never... I don't want to say anything bad about it. I try not to say horrible things about people's artwork unless it's Rob Liefeld, mainly because I can't draw stick figures worth of crap. So it's wrong for me to criticize somebody who is expressing their art in particular ways. I mean, some art works for some people and some doesn't. It's a very subjective thing. I'm not the biggest fan of this work, but it does work really well in this story. The way that characters are drawn and almost to like a caricature exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
It works well. I mean, nothing I see on these pages is saying, "Oh, that's terrible. I wish they would have done something different."
Yeah,
I'm with you guys on the art as well. I don't love it, but again, art's being so subjective, and I can't draw worth a shit. So yeah, it does work for this story, but if I had to choose, just by looking at the art, I wouldn't be the biggest fan.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just it, is if this was the monthly book and this was the art that I saw every month, I probably would get tired of it because I do prefer something that's a little less stylized and a little more traditional, I guess you could call it. But for this story, it works really beautifully because it really is very dramatic, and the way it's drawn and the coloring and the lighting and everything is so dramatic that I think that it fits this story beautifully. And so I like it as a complementary piece to telling this story. So I really like that.
Mm-hmm. And just to go back real quick to the rooftop thing with Gordon and Harvey and Batman, for some reason, I hurt a little bit when I read that this morning because the tragedy that's going to befall that union, and you just don't want it to because they're at this point idealistic and working together to try and accomplish that common goal. And it's just almost heartbreaking seeing how that started from the perspective of this particular story and knowing where it's going to go. Just, I don't know, gave me a little bit of a gut punch with that.
Yeah, totally. And even in this, doesn't Gordon, when Batman disappears, Gordon says, yeah, he does that. I mean, that's right in The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was absolutely one of the first things that I thought of when I was reading. I was like, oh my God, this really is the Dark Knight. They loved this book. But it's a great book on its own. It's a great first chapter. Again, I think it's a great balance of setting up the story, exposition, character stuff, and then just cool Batman action, which you want as well. I'm glad we're doing this and revisiting it. I love the start. Excited to move on to chapter 2 next time. Any closing thoughts or other things to share?
I like the little pumpkin that was left by the dead body in the bathtub.
Oh, me too. That's good.
I will be reading along monthly with the podcast, I think.
Excellent. And this, they should Dark Knight Returns this thing in animation, because there's no way it's going to fit into 75 minutes, but maybe if you do a 2-parter, maybe they could make it work.
That's a lot to ask there, I think.
I know, but, give it a shot. But I really enjoyed it. I think, we'll leave the Long Halloween Chapter 1 there. We really liked it. We're going to keep going, so please follow along with us, but let's move forward. So, when we left our intrepid heroes, they had just burnt all of the mob's money. Harvey Dent went home on Halloween night. There was a mysterious package there, and it exploded. That was the last thing we saw. And so the next chapter, Chapter 2, Thanksgiving, opens up with Batman saying Harvey Dent is dead. So they have... Batman and Commissioner Gordon have taken into custody Mickey the Mink Sullivan. I had to open the page. I want to make sure I got that right. He is the leader of an Irish gang in Gotham City. They were able to track the bomb back to him, and so they are interrogating Mickey as far as who's behind all of this. Then we get a flashback of when they first caught Mickey, and when he escaped into the sewers, Batman has a run-in with the one and only Solomon Grundy. And so Solomon Grundy and Batman get into a little scuffle. Batman, of course, wins. He manages to, I don't know if he breaks his nose or just hits him in the nose, or... Anyway, he hits him, Solomon runs off, and then they bring in Mickey. Mickey goes back to jail. The entire gang has the same story, because if they all admit guilt, nobody can be charged. And we find out that Mickey, in fact, was Harvey Dent in disguise. Harvey Dent is not dead. He survived the explosion, but his wife was injured badly. And so they are doing this to try and find out what's happening in Gotham. The issue ends with Harvey going back to the hospital, with Jim Gordon going back to have Thanksgiving alone, and Batman taking a little Thanksgiving dinner to Solomon Grundy. And then finally, you've got the entire group of this Irish gang having Thanksgiving dinner together when some mysterious stranger comes in and shoots and kills them all over Thanksgiving. And so that is where we end Chapter 2 of The Long Halloween. So Justin, I'm going to let you kick us off. What did you think of this chapter, this issue, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, man, I haven't read this in about 4 years, and so I was racking my brain over like what happened to Harvey Dent. So obviously we figured out what happened with him. Mm-hmm. Such a fun issue. I love in the beginning where Batman he calls him like a fish, and Mickey just kind of has this like fish. It feels like Batman's still trying to figure out his tough guy talk.
Yeah.
And he just kind of questions him like, why'd you call me a fish? But I love the characterization of Gordon here. Like he gives him all this tough talk, and he's just like, I want to get home and have Thanksgiving dinner with my wife. Mm-hmm. This is important, but I want to get out of here. Gordon is just great in this entire book, but I like the character moments in here. Yeah, you mentioned the fight with Grundy. Man, that's the one, if I had to nitpick anything in this chapter, it's a little murky in that spot where it looks like Batman grabs something out of his back belt And I'm like, I always thought Batman, like, it looks like he shoved his finger up his nose.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
But does he? I don't know if he slams a capsule or something onto him, because it looks like he grabs something, and then the next thing you know, I like Tim Sale's work, but it does sometimes become so cartoony and stylized that you can't make it out. And so I'm assuming he grabbed some type of capsule, slammed it on him, knocked him out, and moved on. But yeah.
I'm really
like, look at it, and it's like, is he shoving his finger up there? It almost looks like he's flipping him off.
Well, here's a completely different interpretation, because number one, I'm glad you said that, because I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was confused by what was happening. I read it that way first, where that he like really slammed him in the nose or something that made him retreat, but in the panels prior to that, Batman punches him in the nose is bleeding. Mm-hmm. And then Batman grabs something out of his... What if he's like dabbing the blood off of Solomon Grundy and that was like a peace offering? Because then Solomon Grundy just kind of slinks away. It's so hard to tell, because he did hit the nose prior to that, so I don't know why he would hit it again, but maybe he was grabbing some sort of like...
it almost looks like
a cotton swab or something.
That, or
not a cotton swab, a cotton ball or something.
Or he I took it a different direction yet. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I thought that he hit him and opened him up, so he's kind of got an open wound thing happening. And then, he grabs like a chemical capsule of some sort that's going to get into his bloodstream and cause him all kinds of problems with pain or vision or anything like that. I thought it was some kind of a chemical deterrent that he used. Because obviously Batman's not going to want to get too, just straight physical toe-to-toe with something like Grundy. He's going to use his brains and his utility belt in that situation, and that's what I thought he did, was some sort of a chemical attack.
Or maybe like chloroform or something?
Yeah, it looks like it's hard with Sale's art, but maybe it kind of looks like he's holding some type of device to spray him, or because Grundy's closing his eyes all tight, so something's affecting him.
Right.
That it's I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we are all on the same page. It is Solomon Grundy repellent bat spray is what it is. Yeah. Mystery solved. Okay. Interesting. I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad none of us.
That
really
was in
know.
my notes. I was like, man, am I just not seeing this? Because that was, a little weird, but. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, read it as you like. I'm going to read it as him gingerly dabbing blood off his face, and it's a sweet romantic moment between the two of them, kind of like Fay Ray and King Kong. That's how I'm reading this moment.
There you go.
You're such a softie.
Yeah, it's been said.
It's a good interpretation.
I can hear John Barry's score from the 1970s film.
And also, I want to know, what's Carmine making for Thanksgiving? He's got some sausage and sugar and tomatoes. That's like every Italian meal ever. I've got a quarter in me, so I can say that.
Oh yeah.
So there we go. But I was like, what's he making there? I was just interested. Come on, Carmine. So I don't really have anything major that sticks out. The whole dent thing, being disguised. I'll buy it. But the part where the lights go out, there's a part where they just dismiss Mickey and he's going, down the hallway, and he said, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" And you can tell that both characters are completely different in profile. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get that. Like, I thought the cop would be the same in profile, but Mickey, he looks a little taller, obviously because it's Dent now taking his place. Right?
Yeah.
Am I reading that wrong? I didn't get the part with the police officer being different.
Yeah, I just assumed that was where the switch happened, but you're right. Like, they didn't need to switch out the cop, but
or
I don't know.
That can make sense too. It just makes, again, it's hard in without having so much written for you, for it all to be spelled out. So, because I went back after they said, "Oh, it's Dent," and I went back and I was like, "Oh, that's why the lights turned out, and that's where the switch was." But yeah.
Well, exactly. The first time I read it, not the first time, but as I was rereading it, I'm like you, it had been years since I've read this, so a lot of it is like reading it for the first time, except for the fact that I know who the mysterious assailant is. That I remember. But But like when the lights went out and then it came back up, I was like, huh, what the heck was that? And then when the reveal happens that it's Dent, I was like, oh, got it. That's where the switch took place. But I didn't go back to look close enough to realize that you're right. The profile on the officer has changed too.
Yeah. And so there's that. And but, you know, my favorite moment is just the end. I love the heart of Batman, like regardless of how scary he is, how, you know, just, you know, we look at him as this tough guy, but his heart is still there. And I love that he brings, you know, Grundy a plate at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how he closes out his Thanksgiving, because in the end, you know, Batman, he does care and he sees the best in all, which is why he has his rule, you know. But yeah, those are like my encapsulated thoughts about chapter 2.
I absolutely love the scene where he drops the plate off. That was easily my favorite part in this chapter.
Well, then let's make it unanimous. Because me too. It's like one thing I was gonna say. I was like, you know, the Solomon Grundy fight is kind of pointless. It's just kind of there to have Solomon Grundy there for, you know, just for fun. But the payoff with the plate makes it all worthwhile. Again, even though it does not inform the story, it's such a great moment that it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Well, it kind of closes out everyone's Thanksgiving story that night, you know. You know, Dance, Gordon's, Batman, and then ultimately the ambush at the end. But yeah, it's just a good heart moment.
Totally.
A couple of quick notes where we talked about in the first chapter how much influence we saw go into this and come out of it. I can do that again with this chapter. Again, there's a little bit of to me, I took it as a bit of a nod to The Godfather with the thing that Justin was talking about with the, you know, we're dumping the sugar and the tomatoes and all this in. You know, that to me is like Clemenza explaining to Michael Corleone in The Godfather, you know, someday you may have to cook for a bunch of guys. This is how you do it. You know, a little bit here, a little bit there. You know, just a quick panel, kind of a nod to that. One of the Irish gang was, I can't remember his name, but he was basically like Jimmy Two Times from Goodfellas, where he says everything twice.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought maybe that was a little bit of a nod to Goodfellas. And then, of course, the outgoing influence, again, we see in the Nolan films, we have the thing where they're playing it off like Dent's dead. You know, the public and the bad guys, they think that this guy's dead, but the good guys are in the know that he's not, and they're kind of trying to play it to their benefit, that nobody does know that he's still actually alive. You know, they did it in the Dark Knight film with Gordon, and, you know, here they did it with Dent instead of Gordon. But I think you can maybe make a case for that influence showing up because of this story, because clearly we've seen a lot of other influence come out of this one for that Nolan trilogy. And there was one other thing, damn it, and I can't remember what it was.
Was it about Solomon Grundy? Because whenever I see big raging beast monsters, I think of you.
I have a soft spot for the big, dumb, strong things. I mean, it just, I can relate, so.
I wasn't saying you were a big, dumb, strong thing. I just know you like them.
No, please, I am. I absolutely know I am, and I fully accept and embrace it. I have no problem with it. But, yeah, that's, you know, that's why I'm hip to Godzilla and Kong and all that other stuff, too, because I love the big, strong, less than brilliant beasts.
I mean, I think you guys covered pretty much everything. The one thing that I will say is I know that on this show a couple of episodes ago, and then recently even on Batman on Film, Justin, we talked about the possibility of adapting The Long Halloween to animation.
Oh yeah,
it comes up often. We talked about it maybe a month ago, and I know that you guys just talked about it recently too, Justin.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the big thing is always like, how do you condense something this thick into a 75-minute animated film? It's just it's really, really hard. I still don't think you necessarily can. I think you're looking at least a 2-parter or more. But this chapter, I did think to myself, I'm like, not much happens in this chapter.
Yeah, this one moves fast.
Like this one, yeah, it's pretty quick, and there's nothing huge happens. Like this chapter could easily be a 2-minute sequence in a movie. Like you could just do like the interrogation and kind of the payoff after. You could honestly take out Solomon Grundy completely and not change the story at all. So I'm like, I guess there are ways. I just thought to myself, I'm like, I guess there are things that you can shave out to make it more efficient. Not saying that you should. I'm just saying because that conversation recently happened and I was thinking about it as I was reading this, I was like, oh, this is a prime opportunity to save some time if you're going to adapt it. But other than that,
I was just gonna say it was a quicker read. But yeah, my idea for doing Long Halloween is just do it a year long, kind of like what you're doing, reviewing it. Do one a month. And maybe it's a 15-minute to 20-minute episode, and you do it on iTunes for $1. I would buy those.
Yeah,
it would be a little different than a usual release, and I don't know how I don't work in animation or for Warner Brothers. Wish I did, but I don't. And I think that it would be an interesting concept to do a release like that and see how it would work. They used to do those motion comics. Now, I remember I bought the Watchmen one, and I think they were releasing one a month, and I did that. And I don't know, I don't want to see a motion comic, but I would love to see kind of a 15-minute animated portion of this and see how it would work. I think it's completely possible.
Yeah.
And I think it would just be a fun test. Like, hey, every holiday, and then you'd have, media covering it for a whole year. You have your attention on something cool. So,
yeah. And I think I don't remember which episode we talked about it, but I swear I said make it a mini series.
Oh, yeah.
You and I talked about it, and I said do like a Netflix series of it or something like that, where you could break it down into 10 or 12 episodes.
Yeah. But I don't want to binge watch this one. I want to wait. Like I want it to be every month, like right around, right
every
around
holiday.
Time.
Yeah.
Now, see, I do want to binge watch it, but you see, the option is there where you can watch one a month, and I can watch all 12 in one weekend, and everybody's happy. It's the beauty of Netflix. I also can relate to that.
So we've got the solution. There you go. I mean, I think that probably would be the most fun way to consume this or to translate it because it's beloved. And again, if you were to try and cut it down to a 75-minute movie, yeah, you could cut Solomon Grundy and you could make this quick. That's a way to do it. But then we'd miss that great moment with the plate. So
yeah, I'll say I wouldn't. That's the part that makes it just like as you're talking about Young Justice, like, oh man, if they just had a little cap, like that's the cap right there.
Yeah.
You need that part.
So, excellent. Well, there you go. Chapter 2 from The Long Halloween. A nice little continuation from what we saw last time. And you won't have to wait very long for Chapter 3 because, as we mentioned earlier, Christmas is just around the corner. So, in a few short weeks, we'll be talking about that one. So, if you're following along, you got a couple weeks to read Chapter 3. And hopefully you guys are following along. Hopefully this is fun for you. It's fun for us. Again, it's great to get me to reread this book because I remember loving it. But again, all the details are kind of hazy, and so this really gives me a chance to dive back in. It gives me a great excuse to revisit this really cool story.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, such a great idea to do a commentary on this book, because at the end, I'm just thinking, man, you can just cut all your commentaries at the end and do a special Long Halloween edition.
Oh, nice.
Hey, there's your companion piece.
Exactly. Here's a bonus episode, and I don't have to do any work. I just cut the reviews out.
Just cut them.
I love that idea. Well, Jamie gets the credit for the idea of doing the one chapter per holiday.
Yeah.
No, that was spurring more out of I didn't want to sit my ass down and have to read all 13 issues of it at once. So.
Well, now we're going to have to sit our asses down and read Dark Knight Returns, which is nearly as long. So.
Well, sir, I have absolutely no problem doing that. So.
So we started on Halloween, we reviewed the Halloween chapter, then we did the Thanksgiving chapter. Well, now it's time to do Chapter 3, Christmas, of the Long Halloween. So if you're following along, make sure you do read Chapter 3. It's a short, quick read. I don't think it'll take you more than 10 or 15 minutes. It's a quick one, but just in time for Christmas. So, on this chapter, the Joker has escaped. And he is celebrating Christmas in his own way. He wants to know what's going on with this new serial killer that is being called Holiday, the killer who killed on Halloween and then on Thanksgiving. Everyone assumes he's going to kill again on Christmas. The Joker wants to know who he is, and so he's out hunting. At the same time, Batman and Gordon are trying to figure out who it is, so they go converse with Calendar Man, hoping Calendar Man will be able to clue them in, but he's not very helpful because he's crazy. So the Joker first thinks that it is Maroni, and so he kills one of Maroni's guys. He thinks that Maroni is Holiday. Maroni explains to him, no, Holiday is bad for business. He's bad for everyone's business. It ain't me. And so then they think it might be Harvey Dent. And so then the Joker breaks into Harvey Dent's new home, where Harvey brought his poor injured wife back home after she's on the mend with what happened at the end of the Halloween chapter. And they're not even home one night until the Joker ruins everything, and he shows up like the Grinch, fights with Harvey. It seems like he gets the best of Harvey, even though Harvey gets a couple good licks in, basically saying, you know, if you are Holiday, I'm gonna, whatever. What does he say? I'm not going to be as forgiving the next time. So he's gonna basically, he's gonna take him out. And so the Joker then goes to Falcone's, trying to find out who is Holiday there, and just as he leaves, Holiday strikes again, killing Falcone's bodyguard. Batman finds it. Another kill has been made. Batman thinks it's the Joker, but it, of course, is Holiday. So that is Chapter 3, Christmas. Jamie, what'd you think?
Man, does anybody lead a tougher life than Harvey Dent?
This poor guy.
That bastard can't
he
catch a
can't
break.
catch a break. Exactly. Jinx.
No, I enjoyed this issue. Like you said, it's simple, it's quick, it's a very fast read. I've been a little bit critical of Tim Sale's artwork as we've gone through some of these books, and for some reason his artwork in this is either elevated to a different level or it just works better with what they're doing, because I really like the artwork through here with the Joker, the way he's done, the way Batman lurks in the shadows enough. One panel I'm looking at here that really stood out to me that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it up now. Harvey and Gilda's house, when they show that outer shot, when they go up to it and she's asking, you know, oh, Harvey, can we afford it? It looks like a gingerbread house.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the snowy roof and the chimney and the wreath on the door. I mean, I look at that and I think gingerbread house. Maybe it's just because I love food, but that's what I see when I saw that.
It does. Well, and I loved the panel where Batman shows up behind Maroni in the snow. I just think it's you know, Batman's imposing, his face is in shadow, but his eyes are showing. I just think it's a great silhouette of Batman. I think that's awesome.
That was actually the panel I looked at when I said Batman in the shadows. So yeah, we're on the same page there.
I love how Christmassy it is. I love that the Joker is quoting Christmas stories, Christmas songs as he goes about. He is committed to the theme, and if anyone can appreciate that, it's me.
Indeed.
But yeah, I was a little confused because Harvey hits the Joker twice, and the Joker says, "You're good, but you're no Batman." And then all of a sudden, Harvey's on the ground. So I was like, I don't know what the Joker managed to do there. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like how we couldn't figure out how Batman took out Solomon Grundy. I can't really figure out how Joker takes out Harvey Dent here, but
yep, he nails him twice and then pushes him up against what appears to be the fireplace, and then Joker just has that, of course, naturally huge grin on his face, and next thing you see is Harvey's down and done, basically.
Yeah, and it's a huge grin as Tim Sale draws.
The page right before that, before they start getting into it, where the Joker first, lets him know he's in the house, where he's kind of hugged up on the tree and he has that wicked grin on his face. That's a great shot. That's one of those pieces of art in this one that I say just really stands out as well done here for me.
Oh yeah, I agree. And quoting the Grinch, there's quite a few shots like here where I was like, ooh, there's some good like Christmas imagery in here that would be good, like, wallpaper or cover photos or whatever. There's good Christmas stuff in here. I like it. Lots of lights and ornaments and Santa hats and things. What I like about the most about this particular chapter, and I think what it does the best, is it really builds the mystery of who is Holiday.
Yeah.
That has been introduced in the previous two, but this is where the mystery really kicks in, where you're like, oh, who the heck is this? And again, I've read it before. I know who it is, but I'm pretending I don't. And the fact that it's the Joker going to all the possibilities and ruling them out, almost for the audience, where we're like, oh, well, it's probably Maroni. Oh, I guess it's not Maroni. The Joker just checked with Maroni. Is it Dent? I don't know. The Joker just checked with Dent. I like the idea of eliminating these possibilities in trying to figure out who is Holiday.
Excellent point. When we get to the page where the actual Christmas murder occurs, it shows you just how insane the Joker truly is, because he's driving away in the middle of a snowstorm in a convertible with the top down.
Well.
And for some reason, I don't know why, man, but, the last page, it shows the bodyguard on the ground in front of Falcone's place with, of course, the pistol and the snow globe. And that's a nice shot because it's done in black and white, but the snow globe's colored, which, that's a nice layout there. That's a good page.
Well, just like the jack-o'-lantern in the first chapter.
Right. But actually what I like is the panel just before that, on the last panel on the previous page, where it shows him shaking the snow globe. For some reason, him shaking that snow globe, I just thought to myself, that's some good attention to detail. I don't know why. I mean, it's not a fancified piece of art. There's nothing, incredibly detailed about that panel, but just the fact that they thought he should shake the snow globe before he puts it down. I don't know why I was like, that's good, because you would have thought he would have just set the snow globe down, but no, he did what you're supposed to do with the snow globe.
So I think that means that the killer is Bernard the elf from the Santa Claus. Because if you remember, he gave Charlie a snow globe. And that's what I'm going with. Going with Bernard.
Okay. I haven't seen that in forever, so I'm really clueless what you're talking about. I saw it when it originally aired in theaters, and I haven't seen it since.
What a waste. It's also on Netflix streaming.
Is it? Okay, maybe I'll check it out.
It is this year. Excellent. So it's a great episode, a great chapter. Very Christmassy. Great to see the Joker on a Christmas spree. Really good imagery, nice building and escalating of the mystery. And what's cool is that the next one is New Year's Eve. So where we had like a full month between the last chapter and this chapter, we're going to be doing the next chapter next week. So be prepared.
All right. I got to tell you, though, Calendar Man did scare me when he was talking about February.
Oh, that's true.
President's Day. And
there's a lot going on in February. We better be ready.
We're going to have like an episode every day in February to get through this.
Oh, my God. Our poor listeners. So I really enjoyed it. Again, a quick read, an enjoyable read. Gets you in the Christmas spirit, especially if you're just a little bit twisted.
And
we are.
Fair and accurate point.
Awesome. So continue reading along, because like I said, the next chapter, New Year's, there's going to be no gap. We're going to do it next week. So keep on up, and thanks for following along with us on the Long Halloween. And the last episode was our Christmas episode, our Justice League Christmas episode. And this is the rare time where one holiday just beautifully dovetails into the next. And so we're moving right on to the next chapter, chapter 4, which is New Year's Eve. So in this chapter here, the Joker is still at large. He has stolen a biplane. He is going to gas all of the partygoers for New Year's in Gotham Square, and so Batman is out to stop him. Manages to launch himself up from the Batmobile and ends up on top of the plane and then taking the Joker down. At the same time, Harvey Dent learns that there is a connection between Bruce Wayne and Carmine Falcone. And Falcone and Maroni meet at a New Year's party, and Falcone points out the fact that everyone who is being killed by Holiday is on his side of things and not on Maroni's. So he thinks that Maroni is somehow behind it. At the same time, it seems that that his son, Alberto, I knew it started with an A, sorry. He's looking for a son. Alberto is out on this ship for New Year's Eve. And it seems that he is shot and pushed over the side of the ship on New Year's Eve. Harvey Dent comes home to have a little New Year's evening with Jim Gordon and Barbara, just as Batman defeats the Joker in time for New Year's. And the Joker was going to gas everyone. I actually kind of like this, was because he's like, well, you don't know who Holiday is. I don't know who Holiday is. But if I kill a bunch of people at once, there's a good chance maybe we'll kill him. So I think that's it's good rationale there.
His logic is crazy, but it's not unsound.
Right. There's a certain insane logic there. So what did you think, Jamie, of the New Year's Eve chapter of The Long Halloween?
I think this was the most pure fun that we've gotten into so far. Just the back and forth between Batman and the Joker while they're on the plane, and Batman's internal monologues. His focus is constantly, I have to stop him before the stroke of midnight because I can't let him harm these people. It's feels very Batmanish to me that he's thinking that the entire time that he's trying to bring Joker down and bring that plane down, and that entire sequence was easily the highlight of this particular chapter for me.
Yeah, I will agree. That is a great action sequence of Batman taking down the Joker on top of this plane, and they're back and forth, and Batman's cape gets caught in the propeller and ripped off, and it's just a great action scene. And then we get, again, further layers of the mystery of again, acknowledging the fact that only Falcone's people have been being killed by Holiday, and that there's some sort of connection with Bruce Wayne. And again, we're getting more details of the mystery. And I think that is what I like about this book so much, is how it's a whodunit, and that's very fun, and it's fitting for the world's greatest detective. So this does, I think, balance that well, of giving us additional information for the mystery, but at the same time just giving us a really fun action Batman versus the Joker sequence.
Right. I mean, there's not a lot of meat to the particular story, just those little tidbits that they drop in there. But, that's the cool thing about a book that's this long. I mean, even though it's a commitment to read it all, it does all pay off in the end. So, yeah.
I will say, I feel like Alberto's death here, or his again, we assume this is what happens, is he's shot and he's pushed over the side of this ship. It seems framed differently than the murders in the previous books.
Very much so.
We don't see a body. And in the previous books, Holiday left, there was some, Holiday icon left. So for Halloween, it was the jack-o'-lantern. For Thanksgiving, it was the cornucopia. And then it was the snow globe for Christmas. But here, that doesn't really happen. There's a glass of champagne left, but it doesn't look like it was left there intentionally. And so it's just framed differently, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. One might even think that that's some sort of a clue.
I wonder. Perhaps.
But then that next shot's really, kind of ominous with the blood flowing through the water too.
Yeah, and I think that's meant to be the kind of the visual parallel to those other frames in the previous chapters, like the one with the jack-o'-lantern and the snow globe, because it's the one full page of the victim, and then one piece of whatever Holiday iconography. But here, because there's no Holiday iconography, the color in the other ones, like the color was the snow globe and everything else was black and white, or the color was the jack-o'-lantern. But here, the color is what appears to be blood in the water, but not an actual item. So it still doesn't quite match up. It should have been, it should have been the glass of champagne, or a noisemaker, or a party hat, or something New Year's Eve related.
Good perspective. I didn't think about that. You're right. I want to give a shout out to this so I don't forget, because I'm looking at it right now. That final panel where Batman's standing triumphant over Joker's unconscious body at the clock. Mm-hmm. That's easily the best piece of art I've ever seen from Tim Sale.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really, really great. And I think that, honestly, I really liked a lot of the Batman imagery in this. Again, it's still the Tim Sale style, which you know, your mileage may vary, but I still think that it's always dynamic and exciting in the way it's drawn here. And like the 2-page layout where Batman is coming in over the Joker while the Joker is flying is pretty awesome too.
Great minds think alike, because I just panned back to mention that one too.
Yeah. Looking
right at it. That's really good how he's just kind of hunched over him and they're eye to eye upside, you know, he's upside down over the top and Joker's got that. I think somebody mentioned that on Twitter right before we recorded. How
oh really?
You can see 32 of his 78 teeth in this shot or something like that.
Oh yes. I did see that. So yeah, the New Year's Eve chapter. Personally, I think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Agreed.
Awesome. Well, that means the next chapter is Valentine's Day. So you got a little bit of a break, folks, in your homework, but. We'll be back before long with the next installment of the Long Halloween Long Review. So as you all know, we have been reviewing new chapters of The Long Halloween as each new holiday approaches. The last one was New Year's. And so we are now ready for Valentine's Day. So first of all, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Hopefully you are having a wonderful holiday, enjoying some chocolates, some roses, whatever, some sappy movies that make you cry. I don't know. Your favorite chick flicks. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day, and it is time to further our review of The Long Halloween with Chapter 5, Valentine's Day. So, Jamie, y'all ready for this?
Affirmative.
All right. So what we've got in this chapter, first of all, this is another really quick chapter. I think it took me 5 minutes to read, yes. Which is nice. You know, it's efficient.
It's very efficient. Not a lot of substance story-wise and whatnot to it, but not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it's a long book, so there have to be shorter chapters to it, of course.
Exactly. Well, whenever I read a comic, I put on music. And I put on music, and it hadn't even finished the track when I finished reading this chapter. So... if that tells you anything. So this chapter starts with Gordon and Dent attempting to visit Bruce Wayne at Wayne Manor, but Bruce Wayne is missing, so instead they are hanging out with Alfred. Alfred keeps trying to get rid of them and being like, it's Valentine's Day. Bruce is a playa. He's going to be busy tonight, so y'all should come back another time. But Harvey Dent's not having it because it seems Harvey Dent thinks that Bruce has some connections with Falcone. He wants to find out about that. At that time, we then cut to Falcone at the graveyard visiting the grave of his son, Alberto, who, as we know, was murdered on New Year's Eve. And he has an interaction with Batman. Batman pops up in another really cool full page of Batman emerging from behind a gravestone, basically being like, hey, is it worth it? You do what you do for a living, and your son gets killed. I hope you're happy. Falcone gets pissed off. He's going to try and shoot Batman, and Catwoman pops up at the last second to save Batman. Not that Batman really needs saving. And they have a little interaction there, and she scratches Batman on the lip. It just so happens that night, Bruce and Selina have a Valentine's date, and so Selina notices that Bruce's lip has been cut. They are in, where are they? It looks like a... Oh, looks like
opera.
It's the opera, but to me it looks like a train station. But okay, anyway, they're at the.
It's a really big opera house.
It's really big, but they're at the opera, and a woman in a hood comes up and offers to sell them a flower. Selina, girl power, buys the flower for Bruce. So there you go. Bruce gets scratched by the thorn, but the lady in the hood doesn't seem to mind. I wonder if there's anything to that.
Seems to be a little bit of a sinister smile on that bottom panel there.
Maybe this woman's up to no good. Maroney has one of Harvey Dent's people on his payroll, and he's being paid, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with Dent. At the same time, there is a car full of gangsters waiting outside Maroney's restaurant, and they're all killed by Holiday. And so, like with every one of these chapters, we get the shot of the car being, first of all, they'll get shot, then the car blows up. So Holiday is taking no chances. But like all of it, we've got the big black and white page of the car blowing up with a little box of Valentine's chocolates in color. Maroney sees all of the death and destruction, swears vengeance against Holiday. Gordon and Dent go home to their wives for Valentine's Day after spending Valentine's evening together. And at the same time, Bruce comes home. It doesn't quite seem quite himself, and we find out that that scratch came from none other than Poison Ivy, and so he is under Poison Ivy's spell. He is in her embrace. And that then will lead us into the next chapter. So, long Halloween Valentine's Day, Jamie. Thoughts, feelings, impressions?
Just to get the biggest thing right out of the way here, this made me really hungry for Italian food.
Oh, okay. All right. It made me hungry for Valentine's chocolates.
Well, that could be a nice dessert after a good pile of lasagna.
Right.
Very, very concise, very quick, pretty sharp. Good artwork by Sale in this one. It's some of his better work, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the graveyard stuff is great.
The graveyard stuff
It looks amazing.
I'm surprised you didn't mention already that they're standing in snow there.
Yes, well they should be.
Yeah, Gotham in February, why not?
Gotham in the snow, y'all know how I like that.
It's February in Indiana, and I'm looking at 55 degrees outside right now. So obviously Gotham is not in Indiana.
No, it's not. I do love Sale's version of Poison Ivy. I think his drawings of Poison Ivy, I think, are very cool.
Yeah, they're certainly unique. You don't mistake them for anything else.
Exactly. The way
not like you do with any of his other work either, but
right. The way that the greenery just grows all around her, it kind of takes over the place, I think is really neat. I like the further development of Bruce and Selina's relationship here, both as Batman and Catwoman and as Bruce and Selina.
Yeah.
It further develops the mystery that Holiday is still out there on the loose.
I'm not entirely clear about is the car bomb what causes the damage inside of the restaurant?
That's a great question.
Because you see it blow out the window of the restaurant, but then when you look at the panel where Maroney comes out, one of the women looks like she's got a hole in her head. Now, that could be debris, or I don't know if these people got shot. I mean, it seems to me that strange that all these people died from a bomb there. Well, maybe they're not dead. I don't know.
See, yeah, I guess the way I read it was that after shooting up the guys in the car, they also shot up the restaurant. But you're right. Maybe it could have just been from the explosion.
Yeah, because they shoot up the car windows. Then you have that full panel of the explosion, the black and white panel with the Valentine's box up front. Nice imagery there. You see right there where it shatters out the window of the restaurant.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I'm at first
I think it is the explosion. Now that you say it, I think it's the explosion. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because the lady, that's not a hole. It's like shading on her hair. I don't think that's a hole in her head.
And I mean,
so yeah,
these people could just be like woozy and starting to get back up. Because at first I read it, I thought, well, that's weird. It just killed all these people blowing out the windows, but they may not be dead.
Yeah, it looks like they're all in motion.
Right. The first guy in that panel there, I thought maybe his head was down on that table. Now, looking at it more clearly in some better light, it looks like maybe he's coming in to see what happened.
Well, yeah, I think that's Maroney. I think it's the back of Maroney being like, what the hell? Because you see, because to the left you see Dent's guy, whose name I forget. Vernon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you see the back of Vernon's head, and then that's Maroney entering the scene, and everybody else looks like they're dazed and confused from the explosion.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with it now.
All right. Good. We agree. So yeah, I think it's a solid chapter. Again, pretty short, pretty quick, but it continues the Gordon Dent relationship and their investigation. It shows the consequences of this this lifestyle of the death of Alberto, and shows the continuous back and forth between Selena and Bruce, and then the setup for Poison Ivy, for what's to come. So,
am I crazy, or does Harvey seem to bear some hostility against Bruce Wayne?
He does. He certainly does. He
refers
does not
to the
trust
manor
him.
as a dump, and
I thought the dump thing was he was making a joke.
Well, I guess, but
I took that as a joke, but still, like it's obvious that he doesn't trust Bruce Wayne.
I mean, he even scans down and says he got invited to the Halloween party, but he not somebody who likes dressing up, even for millionaire Bruce Wayne. So he's kind of defiant in that. And then I guess one of the better lines in the book there is, "What a shame, Mr. Dent. Master Bruce's masquerades are often quite amusing."
Yeah,
That nice little nod there, I think.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Leave it to Alfred.
Alfred, he is always ready with a witty retort.
Yeah, he's not at a loss of words very often.
So yeah,
interesting with the sale artwork on Poison Ivy. The most recent issue, I think it's issue number 7 of All-Star Batman. Whoever did the artwork with that kind of takes that similar approach with Ivy, with kind of the patchy foliage coming off of her. Because I had to double check and see if it was Tim Sale that did it, because I thought that was a really unique style. But it was not. And I don't remember who the artist was now. So
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
Cool.
I got sidetracked.
It's all good. All right. Anything else?
Not much to
there's,
discuss here.
there's not much. It's pretty
so quick, so concise. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot to get into real deep.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It's just further developing the story, but that's the beauty of the series, is you just get little tiny bits as you move forward. We still have a whole we're not quite at the halfway point, but we're almost. It's coming along. Time goes fast. But yeah, I think it's a good chapter for Valentine's Day. It works.
Yeah.
So for Valentine's Day, take Mrs. Drooly out to Maroney's for dinner. Just be wary of any suspicious cars outside.
That sounds like solid advice.
Yeah.
And if things suddenly go black and white, I'll know to duck.
Please do. Just sit really far back in the restaurant, and you should be okay. Well, there you go. There's Chapter 5, Valentine's Day. If you're following along, we've done Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then this is 5, Valentine's Day. The next one up is St. Patty's Day. So you've got about, a month? Just about a month to read the St. Patty's Day chapter before we talk about that one. But it's going
and
to
make
be...
sure you have green beer in hand when you read that one.
Yes, green beer, and be ready for the mistress of the clovers, Poison Ivy.
I'm sure that was coincidental that she shows up for that chapter.
I'm sure. So there you go. Follow along with us. We will continue the long Halloween long review on St. Patrick's Day. But for now, happy Valentine's Day. Now, last time we did, what was last? Valentine's Day. So now it is St. Patty's Day. Hopefully you guys are following along, reading these long Halloween chapters with us, but it is now St. Patrick's Day. I know that when you hear this episode, might be a little bit after St. Patrick's Day, but we weren't able to quite nail it on the date this time. Hopefully you'll forgive us. So anyway, the St. Patrick's Chapter 6 of the Long Halloween. Now this one, we see someone released from Gotham Penitentiary, and it seems like it is Sophia Falcone. She is coming to help out her father, Carmine. At the same time, Bruce Wayne decides that it's now time to do business with the Falcone family. But Bruce Wayne doesn't quite seem himself, because he is now keeping company with Poison Ivy. So Sophia starts plotting the revenge of killing Maroni, because they think that Maroni is involved with Holiday and is either protecting him, or he is Holiday, or whatever, because only Falcone's people are being killed. So she's plotting to take out some of Maroni's guys. At the same time, Catwoman realizes that something is up with Bruce Wayne. She invades Wayne Manor and fights off Poison Ivy to rescue Bruce. And then Holiday strikes again, kills a bunch of Maroni's men before Sophia can get to them, and leaves a little leprechaun at the scene of the crime. And it ends up with Catwoman and Batman meeting on a rooftop, and Batman thanking Catwoman for saving Bruce Wayne because, as you know, they're old friends. And then it ends up with Falcone making some sort of deal with Poison Ivy. So, Jamie, what did you think of Chapter 6 of The Long Halloween, St. Patty's Day?
Kind of a middle of the road chapter for me. I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't think there was anything overwhelmingly exciting about it. It's a little Catwoman centric for my taste, but not in a bad way.
Now, Jeremy, did you do your homework? I know I kind of sprung this on you at the last minute, but did you get a chance to read this?
Yes. I actually made it to my local library today, and they have a huge Batman selection there, so they had a copy on the shelf, so I picked it up. It's been a long time since I had read Long Halloween, so I didn't get to go back and catch up with where you guys are, but I did make sure I read this chapter, and then I did a Wikipedia to kind of get the basic plot summary to kind of catch myself up a little bit.
I can only imagine how confusing it would have been otherwise. Just like reading just the middle chapter of this book, I could only imagine it'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that was what the hell's going on? I liked it. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read this, and I'd actually forgotten, it's not so much in this chapter, but overall I'd forgotten how much Nolan had pulled from this story for some of the stuff in The Dark Knight. So I really enjoyed it. I love the artwork. I mean, me personally, I can't get enough of Catwoman, so I like that this chapter had a lot of Catwoman in it. Some Poison Ivy, obviously. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent. Well, I'm with you. My favorite stuff in this chapter is the Catwoman stuff. I love the fact that she saw Bruce Wayne, she knew something was wrong, and she jumped in and she took care of it. I loved that. And the page of her just leaping on the dinner table at Ivy is so cool. And so for me, the strength of this particular chapter is the Catwoman character stuff of her jumping in and doing the right thing, even though she only sometimes does it. And Batman even says something like that. I loved the meeting between her and Batman on the roof, where he even calls her on it. He says, why do you help? Because sometimes she does and sometimes she doesn't. And I think that's done beautifully here. I love the Catwoman Batman stuff. I also enjoyed Ivy manipulating Bruce Wayne. Now that I'm talking about it, I guess that deal at the end was Falcone paying off Ivy for getting Bruce Wayne to do business with them. So it was a current deal, not a new deal. So, got it. Cool. But some of the mobster stuff here is less interesting to me, just because it's like, oh, here's another member of the Falcone family just pulled out of nowhere who's going to muck things up a bit. But overall, I liked it, specifically because I liked seeing Selina jump into the fray.
Yeah, I agree. All the stuff with Ivy and Catwoman is what stands out to me in this chapter.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And we also get just another little dark moment with Harvey Dent, again, further foreshadowing what's coming his way, where they're talking about all these dead gangsters, and Harvey's just like, good, they're doing our job for us. And Gordon's like, no, we don't kill people. We're cops. That's not what we do. And Harvey's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to say that. So it's a nice little moment there.
Andy, you grew up around Chicago.
I did.
Did they close the schools for St. Patrick's Day so you could go see the parade?
Not my school, but I was I was outside of the city. Maybe the people actually in the city, maybe they did, but they didn't for me. We had to go to school like everybody else. But the Green River is, of course, a very big deal. All right. Anything to add?
I'm just glancing through, seeing if there's anything I wanted to chuck into this, but... And when you say another member of the Falcone family being introduced, you're talking about Sophia, yes?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and then, because then there's the aunt as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Just lots of Falcones to keep track of, Those Italians, just So many kids.
If
so
memory
such big families.
If memory serves me correct, Sophia plays a relatively large role in Dark Victory.
Oh, interesting. I still haven't read it. It's on my iPad waiting to be read whenever we finish this.
I see. I think we're about at the halfway point too with this, if I'm looking at it.
I think so.
Yeah, it looks like it.
If not this issue, next one will be.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we're not going to get a break because April Fool's Day is next, and I will be back in town just in time to do April Fool's Day.
Right on.
Great. St. Patrick's Day chapter of The Long Halloween. Any closing thoughts? Jeremy?
I'm gonna keep moving forward because turning this page, it looks like there's gonna be somebody popping up in the next chapter that I'm interested to start reading. So,
Dave Franco. Well, good. I'm glad that this is the only reason we had you on the show, Jeremy, was to hook you in to our long Halloween reading party. So welcome.
Well, there you
welcome
go.
To the party.
Mission accomplished.
Perfect. Jamie, anything else to add?
No. This one didn't do a whole lot for me, but not bad. You just, when you got a long story like this, you're going to have some ups and downs with it, I suppose. This was, for me, more of a downer, but it doesn't mean it wasn't good. It just means it wasn't to my personal taste.
Yeah. I thought it was solid. I really liked Catwoman, but for being the St. Patrick's Day chapter starring Poison Ivy, I wish we'd have gotten more Poison Ivy. I feel like she should have had a bigger role, a more prominent role, just a little more involved in what's going on. She's just kind of there. She doesn't get to do much, which is a shame because she's great.
She does feel a little shoehorned only because does Poison Ivy strike you as somebody that wants to be hired muscle for a mob boss?
Right.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. It's a good point.
True. All right. St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Enjoy the latest chapter of The Long Halloween, and then we'll be back in no time with Chapter 7, April Fool's Day. So last time it was St. Patty's Day. Now we have moved on to April Fool's Day. I was very excited about this chapter because it has none other than Edward Nygma, the Riddler, on the cover. So I was very excited about that. But this one, I think it's very creatively written because you're getting a parallel. You're getting the Riddler trying to determine the identity of Holiday. At the same time, Batman is trying to determine who Holiday is. And you see how their thought processes are very similar. The Riddler's trying to do it for Falcone. Batman is just trying to do it for himself. But what's cool is you get to see all these possible suspects. It's kind of like the end of Clue, where it's like, well, it could have happened this way, or it could have happened this way. But this is how it really happened. So you see the possible suspect of Catwoman. You see the possible suspect of Maroni. You see the suspect of, what's this lady's name again?
Sophia?
Yeah.
No, Carla Vitti. You see that it could be Carla Vitti. You see that it could be Harvey Dent. Like all these, it could be this, and here's why, and it could be that. So it's fun that they're really running down the list of suspects and why they're all still possibly a suspect. Kind of reminds me of Scream like that. You know, everyone's a suspect. At the end, Batman thinks that, Harvey Dent is very, very possible. Edward Nygma can't give Falcone a straight answer as to who it is because even he can't figure it out. Then you get Sophia, who is terrifying, squeezing Edward Nygma's head until it bleeds, which is really a creepy and scary thing that this woman's hands are that big that she can just crush a man's head with her hands. Then the Riddler comes face to face with Holiday in the alley, but Riddler is left alive with one last riddle. When does a killer not kill? And that is the end of April Fool's Day. So, Brendan, you did some homework to make sure that you could join this conversation. What'd you think of this chapter?
I haven't. I was actually on the first Long Halloween review way back when.
It was so long ago, dude. I can't remember.
I haven't read any of it since then, but I've been following along with the podcast, so I've been able to keep up with the story that way. So
we're kind of the Cliff Notes
Yeah.
of Long Halloween. You can just listen to this.
So jumping in and reading again, I didn't feel lost, which I was a little worried I thought I would. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just a really cool, intriguing chapter. And like the first chapter that I read way back when, all I want to do now is keep reading. I won't, because I'm in the middle of reading like 3 other things. Plus I want to follow along with the show. But it sucks you in again. Like it really gives that mystery side of things. And I'll be honest, I haven't read this in that long. I can't remember who it is. So the mystery is
it's Holiday.
Well, yeah. Like, well, spoilers. Geez, thanks.
Spoilers. It's me, because nobody likes the holidays like I do.
That's true. But yeah, it's well written. Again, I'm not for the whole book, I'm not a massive fan of the artwork, but that's, that's what it is. That's subjective. Yeah, it's and I really liked seeing the Riddler, because I forgot he was in this chapter, and as soon as I opened it up to that page, I'm like, well, Andy's gonna love it. So,
what are you talking about? I'm nothing if not reliable. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a fan. I liked it.
Jamie, what about you, brother?
This actually is one of the more enjoyable chapters that I've read of this story since we've been doing this. I really love the parallels between Batman and Riddler, how they're each kind of going down their own expertise of how to get to the bottom of the whodunit here. I like how the artwork sort of mirrors each other in several panels, going back and forth between the two as, Riddler's trying to explain it to, is it Falcone or Maroni? I don't remember. I always get the two confused.
Falcone.
Okay. And, Batman's talking to Alfred about it, and, like the panel where Riddler's holding the gun and he's kind of off to the right of the panel, and then the panel directly underneath is Batman off to the left of the panel, and he's analyzing the gun, and in the background, Alfred's kind of looking at the gun a little bit the same way that Riddler is. I really think, I've kind of made my thoughts known on Sale's artwork. I think it works really well in some parts and maybe not so well in others. But the noirish feel of the black and white, what if flashback sort of images here, I think his artwork stands out very nicely in muted tones and in black and whites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like how they're going through and analyzing, well, this is why it could be this person. I mean, much like what you said. I mean, I'm kind of repeating the same thing you said, but these are the things that I enjoyed about this issue. Was it's fascinating watching them go back through it and do that and say, it could have been this person because of this and this and this. And of course, they're constantly pointing at Harvey Dent as being, prime suspect number one here. And of course, you have Dent coming after Bruce Wayne. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting back and forth there, because you have Batman kind of resisting the idea of going after Harvey Dent, even though he could be the subject. And you have Harvey Dent coming after Bruce Wayne. So, I mean, it's, excuse me, almost like a play of the whole Two-Face thing. You've got kind of the split sides, like you have the good side and the bad side. And Batman, he's not quite to the Two-Face thing yet, obviously. But the way I saw it is, Harvey thinks Batman is the good guy and Bruce is the bad guy, so it's kind of like the split halves of the same personality. Just kind of an intriguing thing to me. Probably being overly analytical of stuff, but I enjoyed this chapter quite a bit.
Being overly analytical after just breaking down a 2.5-minute trailer for an hour and a half? No.
Yeah, it's a little obscene, but hopefully the listeners will be happy, because we left them hanging for so long. Hopefully they'll be like, yay, 2.5 hours, instead of being like 2.5 hours. Yeah, I love this chapter too.
Riddler at the end of that last panel, man. Look at all those cases.
He did. I don't know a lot about guns, but that gun must have stores a lot of ammo.
Yeah. And the 22 is not a large caliber, so you have a lot of capacity with it.
I will take your word for it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this too. What I like about it is it almost feels like this is kind of like the halfway point. And so as you're in the halfway point, it's like they're like taking a moment to take stock of where we are. You know, like here's what's happened. Here's who could be in on it. Here's who's benefited from it. Here's who suffered, and where are we? And I thought this is a really clever way of doing that between the Riddler and Batman. I think that was really cool. It was really creative, and it's great. Again, for us as readers to be like, oh, I never even thought about Catwoman, but that kind of makes sense, you know, and it helps lead your, you know, gets you start thinking about potential suspects and everything. I think it's really neat. I enjoy the art. My only complaint is I feel like the Riddler would know because he's the Riddler. But maybe that's the point, is that if even the Riddler can't figure it out, what chance do the rest of us have? This Holiday has covered his or her tracks just way too well. Even Edward Nygma is clueless. I don't know. So also interested because I remember who Holiday is, but I don't remember all the details. And so I don't remember why the Riddler is spared. That's all very fuzzy to me. But I think it's a really good chapter. I loved it.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. All right. So great chapter for April Fool's Day. Hopefully you guys are following along. Next one up is Mother's Day. So we've got that's like 6 weeks. We got a little bit of a break now. So make sure you are following along with us on the long Halloween, and we will pick that back up on Mother's Day, or as I like to call it, Martha's Day.
Why did you say that name?
Now, the last time we did this was April Fool's Day, and the Riddler was spared by Holiday. Because that Holiday, you just don't know what he or she is up to. And now it is Mother's Day. So we kick this off with Calendar Man taunting Batman like Hannibal Lecter, as he does, being like, I don't know, he's making quite a name for herself. I love how he uses both pronouns to really just F with Batman. And Batman is trying to ask him about, you know, what does he know? Tell me what you know. Hey, what do you know about Harvey Dent? Because Batman thinks this could be Harvey Dent. And while this questioning takes place, there's been an escape at Arkham Asylum. It's the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow has gotten out. Here we learn that apparently the Scarecrow strangled his mother. I didn't know that. Is that common knowledge?
Not to me.
Not to me.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. It's not just me. I'm like, is that like part of the Scarecrow's origin and I just don't know it? Anyway, the Scarecrow has escaped. He is on horseback, which should look familiar to Batman fans. Batman tackles him, finds out it's not the Scarecrow. It is a dummy. It is a Scarecrow of the Scarecrow. Whoa.
Well played.
Makes your head hurt. But it is full of fear toxin, as Jonathan Crane will do, and so Batman gets a big breath of the fear toxin. At the same time, James Gordon is trying to find Bruce Wayne, and Sophia Falcone is questioning some guy still trying to find out who Holiday is. This guy sends her to a Chinese restaurant where there's an arms dealer in the back, but she gets there and this arms dealer has already been killed by Holiday. And just like all the other ones, there's a little basket of flowers for Mother's Day sitting by the body. Gordon goes to Crime Alley where Bruce is there in remembrance of his mother. So it's not just Mother's Day, it's Martha's Day. Yeah? No. All right.
You say that name.
Yeah. But Bruce is still under the effects of the fear toxin, so when Jim Gordon confronts him, he's freaked out and he's having flashbacks and he runs off. He escapes from Gordon, ends up jumping on the back of a bus that while I was reading it, I swore it was a casket. Did anyone else think it was a casket, or is it just me?
I'm looking at it now and it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, it took me a second to realize what I was looking at. I thought he was jumping on a casket, and I was very confused. It's a bus.
Casket number 431.
It is. I figured it was like some weird symbolic thing, like his hallucination that he's seeing his mother's casket. Anyway, it's a bus. He ends up at the cemetery at the gravestone of Martha, and Jim Gordon is right behind him, and he looks like he is about to arrest Bruce. And Bruce, in this amazing final panel, like just sobbing at the grave of his mother. So, Mother's Day, The Long Halloween. Joel, did you do your homework? Did you read it?
Yes, I did.
Attaboy. You were telling me you have all the original books, right?
Yes. My comic book guy, he had them in stock and gave them all to me in very good condition for $60.
Excellent. Yeah. Good for you. So what did you think of this chapter?
Also, I own them digitally. I don't want to open them, so.
There you go. That's like a real fan. There you go.
And first off, I love Calendar Man, and I've always wanted a serious story about him ever since I've learned more, this much about him in The Long Halloween. Because before that, I always thought he was a joke character. Mm-hmm. But I love how he messes with Batman,
Mm-hmm.
And also in the Arkham City game, there was this cool thing where you could visit him on holidays, like on real life holidays, because your game console will be set to whatever real time day it is. And if you visited him on those holidays, he'll tell you some stories about Valentine's Day, for example. And if you visit him on 4th of July, he would, so on. You know what I mean? It's
cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And but yes, I love the collaboration of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. There's something unique about them, and Jeph Loeb is pretty light on dialogue usually. It's mostly like the artist is telling the story, and I really like the colors are so. I forgot who does the colors. I think someone else does, but yes, basically, I thought it was great and really emotional ending with a great splash page. But yes, that's one of my favorites from the whole run.
Awesome. Have you been following along with us on our long review?
Yes, I have.
Oh, good. I'm glad people are. I don't know if they were. Jamie, what about you? What do you think of this Mother's Day episode of The Long Halloween?
The first thing I thought when I opened up and looked at that big giant page of Calendar Man was, it's good to see Liz from American Horror Story getting some work.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
No, it's a good chapter. It's, once again, these things just breeze right by. I mean, it seems like we can read them in just a couple of minutes. The one thing I want to go straight to and acknowledge is that double splash page of Scarecrow on the horse. That is one amazing looking. I would have that framed and hung on my wall. That's how much I like that.
Oh, it's great. I'm with you.
And, even the next one where Batman's taking him off the horse, if it wasn't for the stupid look on the horse's face, I would like that one almost as much. But it's like,
oh, God, his tongue is out. All of a sudden he becomes a Looney Tune? What the heck?
So maybe just the right side of that one to hang on the wall. But I like the artwork in this one. I can be a little bit critical of Sale, but his style works in this. I mean, he likes to play with these parallel images. Like you see down in the corner, I don't know if your trade is the same page numbers as mine, but basically about the, let's see, page 1, 2, 3, 4, where Calendar Man's looking at the stuff on the wall, and you see Batman's silhouette over to the right. And then below that, in the next tiny panel, you see Batman seeing his own reflection in the glass. And then the next panel, the next two panels, they're basically mirroring each other with what they're doing. For whatever I may critique about Sale's particular, for me, weirdness, the guy does a lot of really cool stuff in that fashion.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely give him acknowledgement for that.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. This Scarecrow splash page is so cool.
Oh, it's the coloring, and the setting. I mean, it looks like almost like a Sleepy Hollow type of a shot. I mean, it's just cool.
Yeah. Now you're talking. Now you know what's up. Obviously, someone was a fan of this because we saw Scarecrow on a horse in Batman Begins. And what's funny is I do have a vague recollection of when the movie was coming out or came out. I just remember like a fan complaining of like, yeah, and Scarecrow's on a horse? How corny is that? Joke's on you, random nerd from 2005. It's awesome.
I will say though, now that I'm going back and forth and comparing these two pages, there is a little bit of a cheat there, because the stitching across Scarecrow's mouth when he's on the back of that horse, and then the next page his mouth is wide open and you see his teeth, but then it's not Scarecrow.
I know, right?
Little
He shouldn't be able to
cheat there,
change
yeah.
facial expressions. Yeah.
So I mean that's getting awfully nitpicky, but
Yeah, it's valid. I'm with you on that. I think it's a great chapter. It's a good chapter that gives you a little bit of everything. You know, you build additional mystery with Batman and Calendar Man. You get a sort of confrontation with the Scarecrow, but then you get a little information or more information about the death of the Waynes. Something else that's in here that this is, again, I think unique to the Long Halloween, at least in my knowledge, is that Bruce is the one who told his mother to wear pearls when they went to the movies, and Joe Chill was after the pearls. And so there's like this guilt and sense of responsibility on Bruce's part, because he's the one who told her to wear her pearls that night. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I don't remember that either. And then, yeah, there's the heartbreaking image on the last one, which you can forget. Like, I could imagine some people being like, oh, come on, Batman doesn't break down crying. But when he's under the influence of fear toxin, he can break down crying, and you get this amazing, powerful image. So, yeah, it's a really good chapter.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take a moment to maybe point out, and this might be me reaching again, but Sophia, who's a character that I'm kind of back and forth on, I liked her in this issue because, you know, even though she's got kind of that exaggerated strength where she's holding a guy by the neck, straight armed out over a bridge. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch, but you know, I'll go along with it.
She's a tough lady.
She is too. But I mean, she's almost having like a Batman moment for these few panels that she's in this book, because she's shaking a guy down for information using terror tactics, only she actually drops this guy to his death. And then, you know, she goes to the tea house, and I mean, she's basically almost playing like a detective style in this. So, I mean, you've got these villains that aren't just dumb thugs for the most part. And, you know, to me, that stuff always works out a lot better when you're dealing with a little bit of equality in the brain department. Not that she's anywhere near Batman, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and she says, "Swear to me," which is interesting.
Oh, that would be fantastic. The only other thing I'll question is, this guy is the dealer, I guess you'd call it, for the arms dealer for Holiday. Mm-hmm. To the right of that splash page where she walks in, and you get the common thing where the little trinket left behind is in color and everything else is pretty much in black and white. That table off to the lower right-hand corner, there's a load of those 22 pistols that they're talking about. You would think that he would already have picked all these up, or, you know, instead of going back once a month to get them. That part doesn't make sense to me, why he would go back once a month, makes a custom pistol for that, and off he goes. I mean, I'm not sure exactly. I don't know why he wouldn't go in there and get like 13 of those pistols and just be done with it. Seems to me that's just opening yourself up to get caught. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Again, I'm probably being more nitpicky than I should be about it. But anyway, I kind of like the evil Batman element with Sophia in there.
Yeah, it's cool. Awesome. Well, another chapter of the Long Halloween in the books, or in the book, if you will. Hopefully you guys are having fun following along. The next one up is Father's Day in about a month's time. So do your homework. As Jamie said, they're quick reads. I think it literally took me 5 minutes to read it.
Yeah, I mean, they're quick reads as long as you don't try to read them all at once.
Exactly. They're quick reads the way we're doing it. When you sit down with the entire thing, it's overwhelming, hence why we're doing things this way. But happy Mother's Day on behalf of us and the Long Halloween, or happy Martha's Day to Bruce. All right, let's start with Father's Day, shall we, Jamie?
We shall.
This is Chapter 9, Father's Day, and first we get a flashback finding out that Thomas Wayne once saved the life of Falcone, of young Falcone. His father brought him to the Wayne's house, and so Falcone's father was Vincent Falcone, and Thomas Wayne stitched him up and saved the life of Carmine the Roman Falcone, and Bruce is remembering this. At the same time, Harvey Dent has brought Bruce Wayne, is trying to allege that Bruce Wayne is Holiday, and Alfred gives a excellent testimony in support of Bruce Wayne, and Bruce is immediately released, and Harvey Dent is out of luck. And then we check in with Maroni, and Maroni is checking in with his father, who is murdered right in front of him in his rose garden, that's a very Godfather thing, isn't it? The rose garden.
It's kind of a Godfather reference. There's a couple of Godfather references.
Those aren't roses. It's fruit.
Tomatoes.
That's tomato garden. All right, my bad.
So he's Italian. It has to be tomatoes. Come on.
Yeah, he's in his tomato garden, and so I always get Falcone and Maroni mixed up. Maroni's father is killed in the tomatoes right in front of him, and so we get that that splash page of the death, and the one piece that's in color is a tie for Father's Day. We get a scene with Commissioner Gordon getting his Father's Day gift from little Jimmy, a tie, of course, naturally. And you see that Harvey Dent's kind of losing it a little bit, but he's got his two-headed coin, and he's just frustrated because he thought he had it with Bruce Wayne, and he did not. So we check in on the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter, who are plotting and planning and working together, and turns out that their escape from Arkham was assisted by Falcone. And there's a nice conversation between Bruce and Alfred. Basically, Bruce saying, what would have happened if my father hadn't let Falcone live or hadn't helped them out? All of this horrible stuff and all of these deaths could have been avoided. And Alfred has a really great moment kind of saying, I've often wondered the same thing if I had been a better father to Bruce. And then we wrap up with Maroni waiting for Harvey Dent, now being willing to work with Harvey Dent to take down Falcone. So that is the end of Father's Day. Jamie, what do you think?
The first thing I need to do is ask a question. Is there something in the beginning chapter here of this book where he's doing the surgery on Falcone's kid that says there's a power outage? Because it seems to me doing surgery by candlelight when there's an enormous chandelier above head would not be great.
You're right. And maybe the fireplace is going,
the rest of the family, but even so.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night.
Anyway, nice Godfather reference in that first panel there. He says, "Look at what they've done to my boy." That's a very Vito Corleone thing to say. So in addition to the tomato garden death, that's another Godfather nod there, which I always appreciate seeing those because I do indeed love the Godfather films.
Excellent. And Sophia Falcone, of course, gives her father a tie, too. There's 3 ties given out.
I've never gotten a tie for Father's Day.
Oh, really?
Of course, I don't wear ties. That might have something to do with it.
Yeah, that could be. But yeah, it's like the Father's Day thing, a tie.
Ties don't go with jeans and T-shirts, apparently.
Yeah, right?
And then, you get the descent into madness with Harvey. I mean, there's all these indications that he's already kind of walking that line. And I do love the interaction with Bruce and Alfred at the end. That's one thing that stuck with me because I actually read this before the last time we recorded, and we turned out we didn't really want to do it because of time constraint. But this one stuck with me right up to I got to the point where I couldn't wait to talk about it because it's referencing how Alfred is the father figure to Bruce, which we said before. We don't get a lot of that. And I love that panel. I can't even explain to you why I love the panel where Bruce is sitting on the steps and Alfred is kind of standing over his shoulder. He's got his hand on his shoulder, and you kind of get that shadow cast across the dining hall there over to the other side of the wall, and you see their silhouettes on that wall. I think that panel is one of Sale's best, in my opinion.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And for me, I agree. I think that this scene is the highlight of the chapter. Is this you really get to see the Alfred Bruce relationship and just how they work together and the regrets that they both have about, just their lives. And, there's that heartbreaking image of Bruce just saying that how much he misses his father.
Mm-hmm.
Although it doesn't look like Bruce. He looks like he's balding.
I actually thought that was Alfred at first. I was like,
yeah, it's a weird drawing. He's got like a receding hairline. They messed up that one. But I like the thought of it more than I like the weird hair that he drew.
Mm-hmm. So no, I thought it was a pretty good chapter overall. There were some good touching moments there, and again, anytime I get a Godfather reference, it's always going to be a plus in my book.
Yeah, and I love seeing Scarecrow and Mad Hatter together in their evil lair with a cauldron and beakers and test tubes and everything. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
I look at that with the lightning going off outside, and you have the chains and all the, like you said, the beakers and the fluid containers and whatnot. You really get kind of a Frankenstein, or at least I get Frankenstein's laboratory feel about that.
Oh, totally. That's what I like about it.
Hanging out overhead. And
yeah.
Very Halloweenish kind of a feel to it, which is
exactly
always appreciated thing.
Yeah. And is this the introduction of the coin? Have we not had it up until now?
I don't think so.
I guess not, because they introduce it as if we haven't seen it, but I guess I'm just so used to Harvey having his coin that it didn't even dawn on me that we hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're well over the halfway point here, so.
Right. So that's crazy.
But they have that great slow build going on with his character throughout this thing. So, I mean, that's another nice touch, getting that in there. I mean, it's just one step closer to that edge.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So,
and the way he's talking about that coin very much indicates how it plays into his origin as well.
Right.
Because he even makes I used to say this all the time on a coin flip: heads I win, tails you lose. And he says that heads he wins, tails I lose. It's like they flipped a coin.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that bitter rage going about him. And so yeah, I really think the pacing with Harvey Dent in here is slow, deliberate, but very effective.
No, I agree, and even just the way his wife is worried about him.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell she feels that strain as well.
Yep. Cool. Well, Father's Day, good chapter. Let's move forward to now, because it is Independence Day weekend. So happy Independence Day, and let's look at chapter 10, Independence Day. Now, this one's a little weird because this one starts with the murder.
It's a little uncharacteristic, yes.
Yeah, it's a little odd. This one starts with the murder, but this one we get a 2-page splash of the Gotham City coroner was killed, and we have this great wide shot of the coroner's hearse parked on the docks, and then all the fireworks for Independence Day in color, everything else in black and white. And then we go to one of Jamie's favorite parts, which is Bruce and Selina having a romantic evening at Wayne Manor for the 4th of July.
Uh-huh. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about running away together. And she's asking why stay in Gotham. And he said because he made his parents a promise. And she's saying, but I know places, Bruce, things that we could do. The bat signal shines. Batman shows up on the roof to talk to Harvey Dent. Harvey admits that he made a mistake going after Bruce, and I wanted Batman to go, well, no shit, Sherlock. But instead he plays it cool, and he just says, why are you telling me? And Harvey Dent says, because I make mistakes, but I don't make them twice. Twice.
Dun, dun,
nice
dun.
Little foreshadowing. And so they're chatting, and then they're interrupted. The fact that the coroner was killed on the docks, but this time it's a civilian. We cut to Maroni in jail, and it turns out that he has this little thing going on with Sophia Falcone. So
she's kind of hot.
Yeah, she's playing both sides here. And they talk about the fact that the problem is Dent. You get rid of Dent, and that solves the problem. Then we've got Mrs. Gordon chatting with Mrs. Dent and then talking about how Harvey is losing it. And then we get back to the docks where Holiday has left a little statue of the Statue of Liberty for his or her latest kill, and them trying to figure out, how did this happen? Obviously, Holiday got really close, so does that mean that he or she knows their victims? And that's what Batman says, and I thought it was really funny how Gordon was like, hey, you get close to people, you don't know them. So, touche, Jim Gordon. But then the fireworks have gone off early, and Batman disappears. Turns out the fireworks, it seems, are laced with fear toxin. And Scarecrow and Mad Hatter are out to cause havoc. But don't worry, guess who else is out? Batman. And Batman's going to bust some heads. Turns out, Batman's not alone. Somebody's been following him. Catwoman. So Catwoman and Batman team up to take down the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter. And they have a little tete-a-tete after that. And Catwoman says something very similar to Batman that Selina said to Bruce Wayne about, I know places, Batman. Things only I could show you. But Batman will not run off with Catwoman because he's got a job to do. Catwoman says it's your loss. And Batman says, no, it's the price of independence. So there you go. Independence Day. What do you think?
A lot of alluding to the independence of being independent of the city, being independent of your responsibility, whatnot. So, you know, that kind of is a theme that plays through here. Again, I got to start here with a question, though. And the double splash with the colored fireworks there. You mean to tell me in a city as big as Gotham, where that bridge is and the docks are, that people aren't going to be lined up all over the place trying to watch some fireworks on the 4th of July? Is that what somebody's trying to get me to believe here?
Maybe.
All right. We'll go with it. It is fantasy after all.
Yeah. Or maybe these were more early fireworks that nobody knew was happening.
I see.
Since fireworks seem to happen twice in this chapter, it happens at the beginning with the murder, but then it happens again when they're investigating the murder.
Hey, fireworks have been going on here for a week. I don't know how it is where you're at.
Right. So, I guess there's just multiple explosions of fireworks throughout Independence Day.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I really enjoy the Batman and Catwoman stuff, the Selina and Bruce stuff, then in comparison to the Batman and Catwoman stuff later on. I love that. I love that she is following him through the night.
Yeah.
So I dig that. I like seeing them team up to take down Scarecrow and Mad Hatter. I think that's great. Again, more mystery around Holiday and what's going on with him or her. Here's a random question.
Mm-hmm.
When Barbara and Harvey Dent's wife, Gilda, when they're chatting, there's this shot of the window, and there's like, it looks like little candles in the window. Is that what that's supposed to be? I don't know why they show that twice, and I don't know if I'm supposed to know what those things sitting on the windowsill are.
Well, you know, Tim Sale's artwork's a little weird for me at times. If I had to take a solid, educated guess, those are rubber nipples out drying after they've been washed.
Oh, like baby bottles. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if you look in that first panel below that where she's holding the kid and she's sitting at the kitchen table with the coffee mug, in the background there's a bag with all the baby stuff in it.
Yeah. How weird. I wonder what the hell that's all about.
Well, I mean, that's what Holiday uses for silencers, right? I don't know how sound the science is of a rubber nipple being an effective silencer, but that's what they're going for in this story anyway.
All right. Well, sorry for our little tangent down nipple lane, but I honestly
we had to talk about
what those are
nipples for
supposed
3
to be.
hours last week, so come on.
Exactly. Now this show is about nipples. This is what we talk about. So, yeah, I dig this one. I like it a lot. I like how they weave independence throughout the story, especially as it concerns Batman, how he is not independent when it comes to the promises he has made, but he will be independent from entanglements with Selina/Catwoman.
I will say this, you know, my thoughts are known with the whole, you know, Catwoman, Batman relationship dynamic. In this story, I think it works because I think the Loeb is doing a really compelling job of letting you know that Batman really would like to run off with Selina.
Mm-hmm.
But he just, the drive that he has inside of him will not allow him to abandon his crusade to do it. I just feel that coming through in this story somehow.
And I feel like that is something that haunts Batman a lot over his career, is how falling in love will screw up his mission. Because that's what Batman 89 is about. And that's what Batman Mask of the Phantasm is about. And then you see that in comic stories over the years of how getting involved in a loving relationship throws off the mission. It throws off his purpose, and he always has a hard time reconciling that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Cool. So another solid chapter, 2 for 1 this week. Next one, I actually thought, I was like, okay, 4th of July, we don't have another holiday until Halloween. Like, there's really nothing coming up. So they're stretching a bit, because the next one is Roman holiday. And I actually was like, when the hell is that? I don't know when that is.
I was going to say the same thing.
So I looked, and fortunately they do tell you. I looked ahead just a little bit. It's August 2nd. Because Batman says it on like the 3rd or 4th page. So the next one is Roman holiday, the first week of August, which is also right before my birthday. So 2 things to remember at the beginning of August. Anything else you'd like to add before we move on, Jamie?
No. We're getting down the home stretch here, though. Getting close.
Yeah, exactly. We are getting close.
Now we're going to have
Halloween
to find another
before we know
gigantic
it
book to do this with, because I can't.
Oh, geez. If we finish this by Halloween, we could do Haunted Night for Halloween.
The whole thing?
Yeah, it's not nearly as long. I think it's 3 stories, but it's not. I feel like it's doable.
All right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, long Halloween, long review, 2 more chapters in the can. You've got about a month off before we get to Roman holiday, which I have now learned is August 2nd. You learn something new every day. So I thought we were going to have a nice big gap, but they threw Roman holiday at us, which is in August. We learn something new every day. So if you've been following along, this is chapter 11 of The Long Halloween. This one is starts off with Harvey Dent and Mrs. Dent. She found one of Holiday's guns in the basement, and she's a little suspicious of Harvey. But he's like, no, I always bring evidence home. And she's like, really? Do you, though? Do you? So then we've got Batman in the daytime doing some interrogation, and he even says it just doesn't work as well during the day, but he does what he has to do because he wants to talk to the Riddler and try and figure out who Holiday is and why Holiday didn't kill him. All right, and we check in with Falcone. It's his birthday, and is that his sister? Yeah, his sister's questioning some of what he's up to. So Falcone's birthday is in August. On with Roman holiday, along with mine. Falcone's a Leo like me. So it's good that this was the birthday issue of The Long Halloween, because it was just in time for my birthday, which is in a couple days. Then we check in with Maroni. Maroni is going to go testify against Falcone in open court with Harvey Dent. But he has an ulcer, so they give him some medicine for his ulcer. This could definitely not go badly in any way. When he's being questioned, he pulls out his medicine. He tosses that right into Harvey Dent's face, and Harvey doesn't like that. He does not like that one bit, because it's the acid. That's right. Harvey Dent finally gets acid in the face. We cut to the hospital, and Harvey Dent has disappeared. He has run off. And then we get the next holiday murder, and it looks like it is Falcone's sister, as she is trying to do some investigation in the coroner's office looking up the holiday killers. So she gets shot on Roman holiday. So there is the next chapter. Tim, did you read this one for us?
Yes, I did.
And what'd you think? Have you been following along?
Yes, I have. And
oh, good.
Batman: The Long Halloween is my favorite Batman comic, and so I was really excited to talk about this. And it's interesting to see how Harvey Dent is at the beginning of the story versus he is now, because he definitely seems like a very loving husband, and now he's so determined to take down the mob. It's affecting his marriage in such a negative way. And then you think Maroni's going to be the star witness for Gotham City and take down the Falcone family single-handedly in this day in court. But no, he's actually been working with Falcone the entire time, throws the acid in Harvey's face, burns him, and Carla Falcone gets killed at the end. And he was like, wow, this is actually, despite how short this chapter is, a lot actually happens. But my favorite moment is Drunk Riddler in the bar. And now I can just imagine Dudley Moore's voice coming out of Riddler as like kind of like drunk Arthur coming out of Riddler in this scene, and how hilarious that would sound.
Yeah, I'd watch that. Dudley Moore is the Riddler back in the day. Yeah, Riddler's drinking away his sorrows. What about you, Jamie? What did you think of this next chapter?
I thought it was really going to be more of a filler chapter than anything, because a Roman holiday, I mean, I had to Google that to even know what it was. So,
right? I know. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, there's not much will happen here.
So did we ever cover what a Roman holiday actually was, other than like a movie from like the 50s?
Yeah.
No.
A Roman holiday,
did not cover it.
According to Google, is an occasion on which enjoy or profit is derived from others' suffering or discomfort.
Oh.
So it is kind of a cheat in that it's not an official holiday. However, it does kind of fit with what they're telling here. So, yeah, I figured filler chapter, and I kind of went through this a little bit, and I was like, okay, there's just a lot of general blah going on in this book. Like, I don't see a lot going on in this particular chapter. And then, you know, you get a little bit of confrontation with the Riddler, and you don't really get much answer out of that. And then you get into the courtroom stuff, and that's kind of where the chapter really finds its footing and delivers that blow of the ultimate transformative moment for Harvey there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So what you described for Roman holiday is also called Schadenfreude.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it only because I just read it underneath the definition that I just read.
Oh, it's there you go. Anyway, sorry. I was just like, wait, there's another word for that. Hold on, Google. I knew I'd heard it before. Schadenfreude. I didn't know that was what Roman holiday was. I just assumed it was like another word for birthday, because this is the birthday chapter.
That's what I figured it was too.
So,
and
anyway,
then you got this cold-blooded bastard of a doctor walking out and saying, "Mrs. Dent, your husband is gone."
He could have chosen his words.
That's what I'm saying. I probably shouldn't have laughed at that, but I did. No, he's gone. He escaped.
No, he's probably still alive. He's just not here.
Of course, homeboy's got a scalpel shoved in his back too, so I'll cut him a little slack for his verbal faux pas there.
You know what's funny is that as we've been reading this, I mean, obviously I knew Harvey Dent was eventually going to get scarred, but I kind of forgot about it, where I've just gotten so used to reading this with Harvey as Harvey, and I just was like, I just kind of stopped thinking about him becoming Two-Face. And then when they handed they don't say Pepto-Bismol, but they kind of imply that that's what it is. When they hand that off to Maroni, I'm like, oh, is this the issue where this is going to happen? And sure enough, they saved that for Roman holiday.
On the 2-page spread there of the courtroom, the kind of overhead angle shot there.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else see Batman?
I did.
Wait. No. Hold on. I'm looking. Oh, yes. I did not in the wide shot.
Okay. Well, I saw him sitting up there in the corner, and you know how I knew it was him?
How?
Because he's wearing what he wore on his first night out in Batman Mask of the Phantasm?
Because he's Afflecking.
Oh. Crossed arms. That's a very Batman move, Jamie.
I was really proud of my detective work on that.
Great.
And that is kind of ironic that the bottle that has the acid says fast-acting antacid.
True. So yeah, overall thoughts on the Roman holiday chapter.
I really enjoy it, despite how short it is and how, as you said before, you think Roman holiday, oh, nothing important is going to happen here, but no, probably one of the most important moments happens in this entire story. And I think it's a very clever planning on Jeph Loeb's part, because it's like, all right, like nobody's going to expect it coming because they expect Independence Day or Halloween or Christmas, something, a huge holiday throughout United States, that something big is going to happen. But nope, it's just like this nice little small holiday, and that's when we're going to hit you with the biggest punch of them all.
Right.
Again, it felt just off having a cheat in there for the Roman holiday as opposed to an official calendar holiday. But as flimsy as it may seem going in, and although it kind of, obviously it's got a heck of a climax to it, but the build up to it was not particularly exhilarating, I guess is the way I'd say it. But the payoff made it worthwhile, because obviously that's a huge important piece in the Batman mythos, and for Harvey to have that happen to him. So overall, I think it was a decent issue. I think the payoff was pretty good. I just think the lead up was a little softer than what I'd hoped for, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, and I guess that when this was originally coming out, it was monthly, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So didn't they probably had no choices. They're like, well, we need something for August. What do we do for August?
Right.
So
could have done
I guess that was a clever solution. Well, Roman holiday it is. But yeah, no, I agree. Good chapter. I mean, the thing is, most of these chapters are really quick reads. So, but yeah, it comes to a head, or a face in this case.
Hello.
And we only have 2 chapters left. So the next one is Labor Day, and then we're back to Halloween.
That's only 2 chapters?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're in the home stretch. Well, I'm looking at my book. No, I'm looking at my book. It's not too bad. I feel like the Halloween finale is longer, which is good. It should be.
Yeah, according to the page numbers on mine, the last chapter of the Roman holiday there ends at page 297. So we're 300 pages into this sucker.
I know. It's a long one.
I'm really glad we decided not to do this all at once.
It's overwhelming. But next time we should do, like, once we finish this, we have to figure out what we're doing next. Dark Knight Strikes Again. Dark Knight 3.
Year 2.
Year 2.
Dark Victory.
Anyway, Roman holiday for the long Halloween, the long review. Next one is Labor Day, so you got another month or so. But there you go. Thanks for following along with us on that. So there is indeed a Labor Day chapter of the Long Halloween, and we are in the home stretch, folks. So this is the second to last chapter. This is chapter 12, and hopefully you've been following along. This chapter is essentially the hunt for Harvey Dent. Can I say that? Harvey Dent was horribly scarred last time. He disappeared from the hospital. He's now been missing about a month, and nobody knows where to find Harvey. So Harvey ends up in the sewer hanging out with Solomon Grundy for a bit. Batman and Gordon are out looking for Harvey. Gordon, at this point, thinks that Harvey is Holiday because they found Holiday's gun in his stuff. They found that he shaved, or there were gunmetal shavings in his basement, and Batman's out to find Harvey. But Batman isn't convinced it is Harvey, even though he had suspected him in the past. So he goes to pay a visit to Falcone, and Falcone doesn't know where Harvey is, but he thinks that Batman and everyone let Holiday slide because he was killing off his family and they don't care. Turns out Catwoman was there watching as well. Batman wants to know, why is Catwoman always there when Falcone is there? And Catwoman speaks in riddles, as she does, because she wants to be like the Riddler. Batman checks out the Dent's house. Harvey hasn't been home, but Harvey's wife is there. And then Batman checks in with Calendar Man, and Calendar Man keeps also talking in riddles. It's a problem in Gotham City. So many Riddlers around. And then finally, because they realize it's Labor Day, they're pretty sure that Holiday is about to strike again and that Maroni is in danger. So Jim Gordon decides to transport Maroni to somewhere safe. They're going through, looks like an underground tunnel, maybe underneath the jail or something, and are confronted by Holiday. Holiday kills Maroni and then reveals himself. We see Holiday's face, and it is not Harvey Dent. And that's the last page for the Labor Day chapter of the Long Halloween. So, Jamie, I know you were pretty hot on this chapter. What'd you think?
I really enjoyed this one a lot. This actually may be my favorite one to date. There was a lot going on here. Some of it's kind of simplistic, but I dig the art style. I dig how Batman is in that crank to 11 mode of finding out what he wants to find out, and hitting up all these different sources to try and get to it. And I just think this does a really good job of. It was a page turner for me. I actually read this twice in the course of about 15 minutes, and I just scorched through it both times. It was fast, but I couldn't quit turning the pages because I was so intrigued to see what happens next. I mean, it's been so long since I've read this. I know how it ends, but I don't remember the build up to it. I really enjoyed this issue. I thought it was very good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, this to me really feels like the ramp up to the finale. The episode prior to the season finale.
Yeah.
Where things are really starting to take off. Harvey's been he's been scarred, and so he's out there, and the search for him leads them to Holiday. And it's almost like revisiting all of the different players, just reminding us kind of who's been involved along the way. So when Batman revisits Calendar Man and Falcone and Harvey's wife and Jim Gordon, and so it's almost like a little catch up, and Catwoman, just kind of showing us not necessarily the suspects, but just all the players as we drive to the finale, and then we get the reveal of Holiday. Now, I don't know how to approach this because they don't actually say who it is, but you see the face, but it's not someone instantly recognizable unless you really, unless you went back and looked to see who this was.
Yeah, I think that's pretty apt.
Because I don't know if his face is so iconic that people went, oh my God, no way, it's him.
I don't think
it is a him.
I want to say, and it's been, again, a number of years since I've read this story. I want to say for me, I feel like I hit that page and then immediately flipped to the next one trying to figure out who the hell it was.
Okay.
Because I read it in trade format. I didn't read it in a single format when it was first released. I read it all in trade, so.
Right. And so did I. I mean, I read it years later, and I think same thing where I was like, oh, wait, who is that? That looks familiar. Who is that? And so I don't know if I think I just read forward at that point. I didn't go back. And in the first few pages of the next chapter, they say it unequivocally who Holiday is. But needless to say, it's not Harvey Dent. We at least have a face to go with the crimes, and it's a male. A thin male with cool little purple sunglasses, and he's Holiday. He was able to take out Maroni, who is under the protection of Jim Gordon. So Jim, it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, I actually had to do the double take on that when I read it the second time. At first, I thought maybe that cop wearing the body armor was him, and he was hiding out in it. But it looks to me like he actually blows that cop away right after he shoots Maroni.
Yeah. He shoots Maroni and the cop, and then it's just Jim.
Yeah. So, I mean, apparently he's just standing in that tunnel waiting on him to come down that way. First couple pages of this book, I love that art, that big close-up on Harvey's bandaged face to open up the book with. And then flipped immediately to the next page, and you got a page and a half shot of Grundy and him kind of having the eye-to-eye there. I love that. I'm not sure what Grundy has to do with this particular segment of the book, other than Harvey's maybe trying to hide out in the sewers and they cross paths, I guess.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering the same thing, where I was like, I don't remember this really playing into things. Or, I mean, well, they do talk about how Grundy essentially came back to life, and now Harvey is essentially doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. He said, can a man live 2 lives? So I don't think Grundy plays a big role in the story, but I think that Grundy's resurrection is somewhat symbolic of Harvey's.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I love that drawing of Grundy. That's some of Sale's better work, in my opinion, is that page and a half of Grundy and Harvey there. I think that's a really good looking shot.
I agree. It's pretty awesome.
It almost feels when I'm looking at this that Grundy's one of those characters that Tim Sale really likes, so he puts a little bit of extra effort into it. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, but that's how I feel looking at it.
No, that makes sense. And I like that. I love that Gordon feels somewhat betrayed by Batman, and he thinks that Batman knew that Harvey was Holiday. And so he thought he had one up on him, but Batman actually came back with like, no, I don't think that was him. So a little bit of strain on their relationship.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to read this because I love this little internal monologue that Batman's got going here. They mention on that first page where it shows up and Gordon says a double life, and then Batman's internal monologue, Captain James Gordon, the only other man in my city that I trust, but this turn with Harvey, it has changed how Gordon looks at me as well. And that kind of hits home because you wonder about that, because these 3 guys were the ultimate allies in this fight against crime. And now Gordon feels like one of them has betrayed the pact that they made to bring everything down. And he wonders, is it possible that Batman also is corruptible the way that Dent is? Is it possible that the 2 were in collusion and I'm kind of on the outs here? Gordon would be a little bit pensive at that point, I think. And I really like how that's played out in the way that it's written here. I think that's really well done by Loeb.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good point. And I like that Batman's still digging deeper. He doesn't jump to conclusions either, despite all evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, I mean, he's given the benefit of the doubt for all of it here. I mean, I can't place any of his reasons from memory or anything that's presented in the story as to why he's giving Harvey the benefit of the doubt to this point, but you feel like he knows something maybe he's not telling the rest of us. That's why he's so desperate to find him. So I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just love how he keeps showing up at everybody's place hunting Harvey. I mean, I think that's great. That's very Batman-esque to me. He would shake down every source he could think of in that situation.
Yeah, he doesn't get a 3-day weekend because he's busy.
Sure don't.
He doesn't get to enjoy Labor Day. I was wondering, like, what would be the holiday icon for Labor Day, and it's just Holiday's sunglasses. You know how in all the other ones there was like one in color, but I was like, what do you do for Labor Day? Like a Teamster card? They sidestep it.
I didn't even place that till you just said it. The purple was a grayed out enough purple where it just kind of blended into the rest. So
yeah, that's what it
didn't
is.
Even catch it till you said it.
Yeah, but a good chapter.
The Calendar Man exchange, I want to acknowledge that too, because I like this one little thing. And it's just one of those things, if you're reading quick, which I have a tendency of reading quick because I try to go through so many books at one time. But, the bit where he's kind of shaking him down in the cell and Calendar Man replies, "It's Labor Day. And he still eludes you, doesn't she?" And I don't know why him playing the double on the words of he and she there, it just kind of clicked with me. But that was kind of like you can't tell if it's he doesn't know or if he's just having fun screwing with Batman about it,
Well, he's been doing that the whole time. This is not the first time he's done it.
I don't remember him doing it before, but
yeah, he constantly changes the pronouns from he to she and back and forth to mess with Batman.
That's kind of jerky. That'll lock that guy up or something.
He is a jerk.
And I don't remember if the Catwoman thing is revealed in this or if it's Haunted Night that they dropped the bomb on that. Do you remember?
I do not.
I don't either. Because I think it goes from this to Haunted Night to When in Rome, I think is the sequence of it. Yeah, for me, this was a really good chapter. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think there was a lot going on. I love Batman's presence in this book. Again, that art toward the beginning, especially with the detail on Harvey and Grundy, was really good. And that culmination building up, it kind of makes me want to read forward into the next issue and remember exactly how it all goes down.
Right.
And I think we got a double size for the final one then next month, right?
I think so, yeah. So it's going to be a bit of a gap before we finish it up, which will be at Halloween again. Yeah, I think that's a long one for the finale.
It's hard to believe we've been doing that this long, but it is called the long review for a reason. Oh,
I know. It has been a long one. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. And it's good to finally get that reveal and then see how it all plays out at the end. So a strong chapter that really starts to bring all the threads together as we move into the end.
And unlike Game of Thrones, I can finish this anytime I want.
That is true. So there you go. Labor Day, the long Halloween, the long review. And now you got a little bit of a gap, but we're going to finally wrap this baby up in about, 6 weeks, 7 weeks at the end of October for Halloween.
I gotta tell you, I was a little sad finishing this today.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
It's like the end of an era.
It is. We've got some serious investment going in this thing, man.
That is true. That is absolutely true. So we have been doing this since last Halloween, and we are now full circle. Another trip around the sun, and chapter 13.
A year's worth of time and 370 pages. That's investment, pal.
Right? So chapter 13 is not called Halloween. It's called Punishment.
Does yours have the little rotting jack-o'-lantern on it?
It does.
Oh, I love that image. That's so good.
Oh my god. Okay, so, forgive me. Chapter 1 was called Crime. The final chapter is Punishment. Crime and Punishment.
How fitting.
Clever. Anyway, it's going to be kind of sad when this goes back on the shelf because it's been sitting on my nightstand for a year.
Yeah, it's been sitting on my basement table for just as long.
It's become part of the furniture. Anyway, we ended chapter 12 with the reveal of the identity of Holiday, a tall, slender gentleman with purple sunglasses and a gun. He just killed Maroni. Yes, Maroni. Like I said, I always get them mixed up.
Falcone.
Maroni Falcone. I think he killed Maroni. Yes, he did. He killed Maroni. Because, spoilers, guys, hopefully you've been reading along, it is Alberto Falcone, the son of Carmine Falcone. We thought Alberto had died on New Year's. Turns out he did not. He just went into hiding. He faked his death and has continued to kill as Holiday. So he has been revealed. It turns out, though, that Gordon planned for this because Gordon's a smart guy. And so the cop with Gordon is not a cop at all. It's Batman in disguise.
Little bit of sideways Dark Knight going on there. More of that influence that you see that Nolan and company took out of this particular story.
There's a lot of that in this issue, but yes, that is a perfect example where it's like a twist on what we saw in The Dark Knight. So Batman reveals himself and does a little healthy beating for Alberto, just, let some steam out.
So sometimes you just got to punch crime in the face.
And indeed he does, but Gordon stops him and says, all right, okay, that's enough of that. Don't want to do something that we will both regret later. And we start seeing a recurring theme here where Batman says, do what needs to be done, because we're going to see that a few times in this particular issue. So Alberto is taken off to jail. He meets with his father, and his father's like, hey, dude, just say you killed Maroni and I can get you off. You'll be okay. But Alberto is very proud to be Holiday. He wants to be called Holiday. He's embraced the persona. I like when it cuts back to him though in the not the cell, but in like no, it is a cell. He's in the cell. Both of his arms are in casts. I think that's a great touch.
Well, that shot right before Gordon tells him to back off, his hands do kind of look mangled there.
Yeah, there's one where it looks as Batman's stepping on his hand.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh,
there's one prior to that. Yeah,
you're right. Sometimes I just don't pay enough attention to Sale's artwork to pick up that sort of thing.
Well, and sometimes you have to really look. It's not. He makes you work for it.
Indeed.
So yeah, Batman's got no qualms about breaking some bones here and there, people. And so anyway, Alberto, he's happy to be Holiday. He meets with his dad. His dad's like, "No, I'll get you off." And he's like, "No, it was me. I killed all these people." And he explains to him, like you never wanted me as part of the business. You never let me be part of the family. But guess what? Gotham is different now. I'm Holiday, and I'm bigger than all of you. I'm bigger than all of the Falcones. And so, yeah, he's happy to just to accept his fate at that point. We check in with Harvey Dent's wife. Poor Gilda. It's Halloween night. She's still giving candy to trick-or-treaters, even though her husband is out there being a madman. And the Gordons come and visit her. And we find out that Harvey Dent goes to visit the Calendar Man.
Right before we get there, that shot of the jack-o'-lantern on the pike out in front of Arkham on the gate. Love that image.
I agree. That's amazing.
We have the doors open in the Arkham containment cells. I assume identity unknown as Joker.
That was my guess as well. Is that, all of those cells are open. So where is everybody? Where'd everybody go for Halloween?
And it's awfully fortuitous that apparently the coin came face up for identity unknown Jonathan Crane and Pamela Isley, because that would seem to be the reason that Calendar Man didn't get his early parole.
Yes.
I wonder how many times he flipped it to make that happen.
So anyway, we go back to the Falcones. Carmine is very not happy that Alberto refuses to help himself. And at the same time, we see that there's been an invasion in the Falcone house. And we get just hints of all of these villains. We get some Ivy. We get some Laughing Gas. We get some, it looks like quills, maybe, carrying fear toxin. And it turns out that most of the Rogues Gallery are there at the Falcones. So we have
that poster on my wall.
Okay, so as I was reading it, that was my thought was, okay, I need to find that and make it my laptop wallpaper for Halloween because it's amazing. Yeah, so you've got Grundy, you've got the Mad Hatter, you've got the Joker, you've got Two-Face, the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and Catwoman, and with a little jack-o'-lantern in front for good measure, and the Joker gives us a trick-or-treat.
Indeed he does.
This is this is an awesome 2-page spread.
I'm looking at that shot of Grundy, man. I do like it much better than the one in the Batman, but I still like the one in the Batman.
I get it. You like big hulking things.
It's my thing. What can I tell you? And look at the freaking heat that Jervis is packing there, would you?
I know, right? It's as big as him.
That's giving Jack Nicholson a run for his money.
Yeah. So, Two-Face shows up.
That's a nasty one-pager of him there, too.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So Two-Face shows up, and he explains the situation that they're in, that he's going to do whatever it takes to still protect his city, even if that means taking out Falcone. And just as he's about to do that, we start getting some gas bombs and whatnot, and here comes the Batman. The Batman takes out all these villains, and wonders why the heck Catwoman is there. Catwoman, what side are you on? And she answers, the same side I'm always on, which is, of course,
Her own.
Her own. But he takes them all out, but unfortunately, he can't save Falcone. Harvey Dent gets him, and Harvey Dent flips the coin. The coin does not land in Falcone's favor, and no more Carmine Falcone.
Good. We won't have to be confused by the names anymore.
Exactly. They're both dead. Thank God. I never have to keep them straight again. In the movie, it's easy to keep them straight, but here I have a really hard time. Anyway, his daughter freaks out, and Catwoman tries to restrain her, and they end up both going out the window. Catwoman, of course, saves herself, but Sophia falls to her demise. Batman tries to save Harvey's soul and try to talk him into remembering the man he was and to come back, but no cigar. Harvey, he gets the drop on Batman, and away he goes. He exacts the revenge on the assistant district attorney, Vernon Fields. Now, does the name Vernon Fields sound familiar to you, Jamie?
Other than him being in there earlier?
So, I don't know if it's on purpose because it's very random, but Verna Fields was the editor for Jaws.
Is that so?
Yeah. I think she won the Oscar for it, too. But I was like, that's so close that I wonder if, Jeph Loeb just likes Jaws and wanted to do a little nod. I mean, she did a lot of other stuff, but that was, what she was so famous for.
I wonder if maybe she was... I'd be curious if you looked it up and see if she works on Godfather, because obviously there's a heavy Godfather influence going on in this story.
Okay. You've piqued my interest. Nope. No Godfather.
Okay. Worth a shot, anyhow.
Oh, it was a great idea. I would have been very impressed. But at least not according to Wikipedia. It's not on here. But she did American Graffiti.
She was obviously involved in big 70s cinema then.
Yeah. So anyway, this is Vernon Fields, and he's doomed because somebody had to have given Maroni that acid, and it was him, and he's dead. And then Harvey turns himself in, but I love how we get this same rooftop scene, very reminiscent from how we started the story between Batman, Gordon, and Harvey, but after everything has gone down.
Right.
I love that.
It's a fantastic sequence. The dialogue is great. The art style of Harvey being in the center of those two spots there. I mean, it goes into something I'm going to touch on here in a minute, where it shows the duality of Batman and Gordon at the end of the story as well. So nice lead into that. Very, very good on the part of the writing and the art set up for it. Mm-hmm. And the way Sale draws Two-Face is just, I mean, it's unsettling as hell.
Right. Pretty gross. And again, Harvey claims he did what needed to be done. So he says the long Halloween is over. He turns himself in, but not before dropping a little riddle. Who is he, the Riddler? He said there were 2 holiday killers. And away he goes, and Batman and Gordon are like, we don't know what to make of that. And fortunately, we find out. We cut to Gordon. Gordon finally goes home to spend some time with his family so they don't run off to Ohio. No? You don't get it? No?
I paused for a second because I was trying to find that piece that I wanted to read, because I like here it is. As Gordon and Batman are parting ways on the rooftop here, Batman says, was it worth it? Gordon says, Batman says, the promise that we made to bring down the Roman, what it cost us, Harvey. Gordon responds, if you're asking me, did the good guys win? Yes, the good guys won, Batman. But I won't know if it was worth it for a very long time. I love that. I think that's just, it's almost a gut punch. Not quite. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just strong, very strong writing right there.
Agreed.
Because it makes you feel that loss. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier when we talked about earlier chapters of the story how much I loved the connectedness that these characters all had with one another, the 3 of them, Dent and Gordon and Batman. And feeling the loss of that 3rd member of their group And you can see from this small exchange of less than maybe a paragraph or so each, and you just it tugs at the heartstring a little bit, knowing that they lost that friend and ally there. Yep, the good guys won, but there's one less of them. Mm-hmm. So no, it's a great call. That is a great scene between the two of them, and he doesn't even say that until Batman is gone. I won't know if it was worth it for a very long time. Right now, all I can think in my head is 20 years of fighting crime in Gotham. How many good guys stayed that way? How many good guys are left? Yep. So Gordon goes home, spends some time with his wife and his child, but I love that, Barbara asks, what's he going to do now? And he said, what? I have to continue. I believe in Gotham City. Mm-hmm. And then we get Batman here talking about the promise he made to his parents. So, we talked about in the War of Jokes and Riddles where Batman, kind of claimed to, I'm no better than the people I hunt, and we talked about that line in Hush. This is the exact opposite, and this is what I love about Batman, where he says, I made a promise to my parents that I would rid the city of the evil that took their lives. No matter what that evil looks like or becomes, I believe someday I will make good on that promise. I have to. I believe in Batman. And again, showing that duality that I just mentioned between he and Gordon. Gordon's talking about how he believes in the city, and Batman's basically saying how he believes in his crusade there. Mm-hmm. Which the goals are essentially the same there, I think, but just a little bit different in the philosophy of it. Right. And then we check back in with Gilda on Christmas, and there is more to Gilda than meets the eye. She is burning evidence and talking about how Harvey said that they would finally be together once he or have the time to be together once his workload lightened, and sounds like Gilda did some things and posed as the holiday killer a couple of times, and then Harvey did the same. And so it turns out there weren't two, there were 3 holiday killers. Sure. This part, I had a flashback. It's been years since I've read it, but I had a flashback in reading this, and I go, oh, I remember being confused as hell the first time I read this. This time it wasn't any different. It's not, it's not super, super clear, but that's the way I read it. And what's funny is I remember nothing about this ending. All I remembered is that it was, this whole time, I just was like, oh yeah, it's Alberto, I know. That was all I remembered, was it being Alberto. I don't remember this ending of Gilda essentially confessing to some of the murders and then insinuating that Harvey committed some of the murders too. And Alberto just took credit for all of them because he loved being Holiday. Pretty much. But whereas Gordon believed in Gotham City and Batman believed in Batman, Gilda says she believed in Harvey Dent. So it's not just a duality, it's a triality, trinity. Indeed. So yeah, I had no recollection of that ending. It was that I completely had forgotten. I don't know why, but yeah, it was the same thing where I had to read it twice to be like, wait a minute, am I reading this right? But she mentions the baby bottle nipples. And if you listen back somewhere early on in this long review, I was like, what the heck are those things on the windowsill? And you were like, oh, they're like baby bottle nipples. And I was like, huh, weird. And then you had to point out, well, yeah, he uses them as silencers. I was like, oh, I somehow missed that detail. And I love that had been set up, and you think that it's set up as a red herring because, there's a baby. Turns out not. Turns out that Gilda was up to something, and she was, of all the suspects, she was one that I never suspected. Yeah, nicely done in that respect anyway. But I know that some people who are less big fans of The Long Halloween, they think that it was a bit of a cheat. They think that the mystery doesn't quite hold up. But, I mean, you don't get all the detail, so maybe in that way it does. So now you don't really know who Harvey killed, who Gilda killed, and then who Alberto killed. You know some of them, but you don't necessarily know all of them.
but it's, they certainly all could have done that. So I think it holds up in that it's like they never lie to you. The solution can still be the solution, but yes, they don't completely spell out who did what at what point.
How awkward would it have been if two of them showed up at the same time to kill the same person in the same way?
I know, right?
See, just...
So anyway, now that we have come full circle, Jamie, how do you feel about The Long Halloween?
I'm really glad that I reread it because obviously being a number of years since I last visited the story, got me refreshed on a lot of the details and showed me more appreciation, especially the art. I remember the first time I read this, I kept thinking to myself, I really didn't like the artwork in the book, but reading it through at this time and, even early on, maybe I even said a couple times that I wasn't a big fan of Sale's artwork, and it's not my thing to go as stylized as he did, but the more I read and paid attention to the detail of a lot of the pictures, the more I came to appreciate his style. So it gave me some appreciation for Tim Sale doing this. Loeb is a great writer. I've always liked his stuff. I like way more of his stuff than I don't. The relationship between Gordon and Batman and Harvey was the strong selling point of this story to me. Beyond the mystery, beyond the villains, beyond all the great cameos from the Rogues Gallery that we got, that relationship and foundation that those three had and the way that it wound up dissolving at the end, for me, that was just the heart of the book. And that's what I love the most about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that we revisited this too. It was really fun. What I love about it is that it's such a sprawling epic. I mean, obviously it spans over a year in their lives, but there's just so much in it. There's so much detail, and I love that it's so rich that way, and there's just so much going on here. So I agree with you actually about the artwork, about Tim Sale's art, because I think that we both agreed more than once that we're like, for the most part, it's not our thing, but every once in a while he would do an image and we're like, okay, Tim Sale's not my thing, but that's amazing. And I also just think that you kind of tune into it the more you read it. You settle into this groove of like, no, this is the art of this world and of this story, and it fits this story. And then you just learn to appreciate it for what it is, because there are some really interesting and cool things as far as art goes. And then, yes, you're right, the writing is really terrific. I mean, not just the dialogue, but just the way the story is constructed and how much is going on. I'm tempted to just go back and start again now that I remember the ending and see how it all adds up, because I feel like it adds up. I don't feel cheated by the ending. I feel a little confused, like you do, to the point where I was like, wait, let me make sure that this is what happened. But it's certainly unexpected, and there's some times earlier in this issue where Batman's kind of beating himself up because he suspected Harvey and it wasn't Harvey. And in the end you find out, well, it kind of was too. So Batman shouldn't be too hard on himself, because there was, where there's smoke, there was some fire, but it wasn't as simple as just one person, as just Alberto. The other thing this reminded me of is I distinctly remember when they cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Dark Knight Rises, people thought he was going to play Alberto Falcone.
Well, I could see why they were probably...
Do you remember that rumor?
Not really, because I wasn't paying much attention to the rumors of it. The only one that I caught wind of was the one that actually wound up being the spoiler for the damn film.
With Talia?
Yeah, but I mean, let's not act like that was strongly hidden anyway, so.
It's true. It was not a shock. But yeah, I remember when that happened, people going, oh, we think he's Alberto Falcone. And I was like, who the hell's Alberto Falcone? I had no idea. So I had to look that up at the time.
Well, with the influence that this book had over that trilogy of movies, good Lord. I mean, I can certainly see why one would draw that conclusion.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if you find out nothing, so of course people jump to the source material, and you're right, there was so much pulled from this for The Dark Knight that you go, oh, well, who could he have been from this story? I think he was going to play Sophia, but apparently not.
We need to get on to Dark Victory now. We'll take a break, but we should do that one on the long review next.
Well, and we have to do Haunted Night, maybe next Halloween.
Well, I don't think Dark Victory is as long as this one, if I'm not mistaken. So we'd do like a long review on that and then land on Haunted Night. We got time. We got time to think about it.
We still have to do The Dark Knight Strikes Again and DK3.
Indeed.
So there's a lot to do. But anyway, anything else about this finale of The Long Halloween that you wanted to mention that we haven't gotten to yet?
Those splash pages are really good, but none are better. I mean, Sale does a great splash page. We've talked about his big mural styles. I remember that Scarecrow one was really great that I liked a lot, even though Scarecrow had way too many teeth.
That one was awesome.
Joker had a couple in there, same thing. There was just good stuff like that sprinkled throughout. But man, that 2-pager with the Halloween theme setting with Joker saying trick or treat, I would do a wall in my house with that. I love it that much.
Yeah. Well, I just found the high-res artwork online, so now it is in my Halloween wallpaper rotation.
Outstanding.
So boom. And if you want it, just Google image search The Long Halloween Trick or Treat, and it'll come up.
Good enough.
So do that. Great. Yeah, I think it's a fitting conclusion. I love that they found a way to bring back all of the main Rogues Gallery for this big finale, for it all to culminate in Falcone's house, with Two-Face really taking the lead and taking out the last big bad who we have followed along throughout the entire story. I think that was a fitting and epic conclusion to this epic story, and then to have it go from that really big finish of Batman taking out all of his Rogues Gallery at once, to then a much quieter and more personal moment just between the three men that started this story on the rooftop was a beautiful way to bookend it. But unfortunately, at that point, one of them is not the man he once was, and so that the sacrifices they made to bring justice to the city is definitely felt by all. So I thought that was really cool. And then one last little twist, I guess, as all murder mysteries should have.
Yeah.
So overall, I was really happy with it, and it was fun to go through for every holiday over the past year.
Recommended reading, no doubt.
I mean, required reading, really.
No, don't say required reading. The Ray from the Flight Cat, or Ray from Fans Without Borders will have a fit over that. Don't say that.
Well, I'll say it anyway. Right. So, I mean, there are. Well, I'm not going to say most things.
He just read Dark Knight Returns for the first time like 3 weeks ago. What does he know?
Really?
Yeah. Because we kept beating on him about it.
So is that why he's all touchy about required reading?
I think so, yeah.
Well, it's the Dark Knight Returns, dude. Come on. There are very few that I would say are required reading, but that's one of them, and this is the other.
I'm pretty sure once we found out, me and Scott from Suicide Squadcast kind of bombarded him for like a week straight about how the hell can you call yourself a fan and not having read The Dark Knight Returns. That sort of thing, like we're known to do.
Yeah, good. Gang up on him. Make him feel bad. Your reading is bad and you should feel bad.
Oh, no, it's
awesome.
Seriously though, I'm glad to be through it, and I'm glad we accomplished that, and I thought it was really cool the way it was handled and everything. But I feel a little bit empty. I do. It's weird not to have another chapter of this to look forward to in a month, Well,
we can certainly do Dark Victory, and we have plenty of other iconic Batman stories that we need to cover on this show someday.
I don't know. There's only like 78 years worth of stuff out there. We might run out soon.
Yeah, that'll happen. Maybe when our great-grandkids are doing this podcast, they'll run out.
Ooh, a legacy. I like it.
But anyway, The Long Halloween, closing thoughts, Jamie, or do you feel like you got it covered?
No,
anything you want to say as we close out?
Great story. It's an upper crust Batman epic story, and if we're going to call something required reading, I would certainly put this somewhere on that list.
Yeah, I agree. It was really fun to do this over the year. Good idea. Fun to see it come to an end. because it means that we can just do something else. But really cool to revisit it, and I feel like I have even greater appreciation for it on this additional go-round. So I'm going to say it's required reading, and if you don't like it, come at me, bro. So, The Long Halloween, just in time for the real Halloween. Hopefully you've enjoyed going down that journey with us. We appreciate all of you who have done that with us. It's been super fun, and we will do it again. But in the meantime, just enjoy the sense of completion that you've done it. You've crossed the finish line. Good for you. And there you have it, a whole year's worth of comic book reading in one convenient place. Hopefully you enjoyed reliving that journey, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you already heard it the first time and you were good, and you're not even listening to this now, so I don't know why I'm talking to you. But anyway, that was it. 13 chapters of The Long Halloween, a heck of a journey, really fun that we enjoyed doing it on the show. And, you know, we might do that again in the future with some other really iconic Batman stories through the years. But in the meantime, we wrapped up The Long Halloween, and we felt a nice sense of accomplishment that we did that. So we do thank every single one of you who joined us on that journey through that year, and hopefully you enjoyed reliving that journey here. But that'll do it for this episode of Holy BatCast, which is kind of, sort of, not really a new episode, but sort of new, and hopefully you enjoyed it regardless, and we do thank you for joining us. So thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you do get your podcasts. Also, please leave us an iTunes review. That's the very helpful way to support the show that takes a minute of your time but really helps us out. Visit holybatcast.com, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Holy BatCast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Holy BatCast. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye now.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Happy Halloween.